Hello everyone, this is movie 3 of What If Naruto Becomes a God, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Stadium. Killer Bee had faced many opponents in his life. Alone, with his brother, with a team, you name it. He survived in a battle against the Kiroi Senko, when he was only a teenager. Now, a grown man, he is capable of taking on S-rank ninjas, thanks to the cooperation and perfect control of his Bayu. But facing him now was a guy that made even him sweat. Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha Okami no Shi. A man whose assassination and combat skills are unparalleled. He was famous for taking down 10 low S-rank ninjas by himself. It wasn't mind-blowing for him when he first heard it, but it was 2 years ago. And if this kid is taking part in the exams, the biggest possibility is that he was at least 10 years old when he did it. A 12-year-old capable of destroying S-rank ninja. This would be a tough fight. Be careful, B. He is ominously strong, the Hachibi said, with B nodding. He wanted his container to take this seriously. But when Naruto goes and say he took Yugito's Bayu, he gave B the perfect chance to act like an idiot. B fell into a rap stance, yo, you're the one who took Yugi's kitten. Prepare yourself for you're about to be smitten. He horribly rapped, getting a sweet drop from Naruto, I have to fight this guy. He thought, then shrugged, taking out his Raijin as B took out his swords and held 7 of them instantaneously, holding 2 in the hinge point of his right and left arm, another between his shoulder blade and neck, 1 in his mouth, 1 under his left armpit, 1 below the right knee and 1 between his right thigh and stomach. He charged them all with lightning chakra. Naruto rushed at him, only to stop in his tracks as Killer Bee started spinning like a buzzsaw. Even with his Raijin, superior speed and strength, Naruto couldn't land a single hit as Killer Bee danced around, almost hitting him quite a few times. What the hell? This style, I can't predict his moves, he thought, jumping back. He summoned 4 birds and sent them to 4 different angles. He jumped back, took out the Raijin and the Kusanagi, let's try again. He said, rushing at him. Naruto used his twin swords, along with the joint vision of the Rinnegan to try and find patterns. He had little luck, but he was doing better, blocking more and more strikes, getting more chances to hit. He dodged 3 blades at his arms, kicked the ground below him only for B to jump and spin attack him like a hedgehog. He dodged, blocked 4 blade attacks, then swinged both of his swords at his neck. B went below them sending 5 blades at Naruto's stomach. Now, he thought, disappearing in a black flash and appearing behind Killer Bee, stabbing both of his blades through him, only to pierce a log. He turned to see Killer Bee collecting his blades and noticed a gash on his ribs. He smirked, causing Killer Bee to turn at him, what are you laughing at, you Anbu vet? Look down and see your jacket. B said, albeit even more horribly. Naruto shook his head, only to notice 5 holes where his stomach is. He turned at Killer Bee and growled, die. He said, releasing a torrent of white flames at him. B jumped above them, sending all 7 swords at him, however, Naruto had enough. Almighty push. He said, the blades bouncing back, then he sealed Kusanagi and turned his arm into a cannon, sending his black chakra beam, disintegrating the swords, then aimed it at Killer Bee. B dodged it, taking out his last sword. He charged at Naruto, Naruto doing the same with the Raijin. They fought, sparks flying everywhere, but it was clear Naruto held the advantage. He got quite a few swings inside, opening scars in B's arms and legs. Naruto dodged a swing, only to slice B's arm, not so tough without all the blades away. He said, crossing his blade with B's neither side getting an advantage. B pushed harder, fool, you can't beat me. 'Cause I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. He said, only to wince in pain as Naruto had turned his other arm into a spear and pierced B's ribs, enough with the rap. Roared Naruto. B chopped the spear, breaking it in half and elbowed Naruto's face, sending him flying. Naruto spinned in midair, stopping in his tracks. He charged B, only to dodge a pencil. Coated in lightning chakra. He turned to B, really? He asked, causing B to shrug. Naruto shook his head, sending all 4 birds at B, only for him to easily destroy them. He turned only to see Naruto pointing his palm at him, on orb of black chakra surrounding it, chakra eruption. he yelled, sending the orb at him. An explosion of light occurred. However, Naruto knew it wasn't over, as he felt the chakra of the Hachibi. Stands. Up in the stands, the Junin and the cage's bodyguards were looking at the fight. They were wondering why Naruto was fighting Killer Bee. Maybe he thought Kumogakure was responsible for the attack. Maybe he felt offended by Killer Bee. They didn't know why he fought. What they did know was that this was a fight to the death, neither side giving in. Kakashi felt the Hachibi's chakra and turned to the rest, we should get out of here. I would like the cage's bodyguards to inform their cage, I will personally inform the Hokage. Asuma, Guy, Kurenai, form a perimeter and forbid anyone besides the cage entering the arena, he said, getting nods. They disappeared to do as asked, only Saito remaining. He took a puff of smoke, then dropped his cigar, don't die kid, he said, vanishing. Arena. Once the light cleared, Killer Bee stood in his version 2 form, his hands crossed. He was surrounded by dark red, almost black chakra and resembled a demonic bull with 8 tails. Naruto smirked, I want to see how he goes. I don't want to fight him in his mindscape. He thought, surrounding himself in a thick black aura. He charged Killer Bee, only to have to dodge a giant bull's spine. Time to die fool ya fool, said Bee, his voice distorted. Naruto took out the Kusanagi, not just yet. He said, blocking the spine with the Raijin and stabbed Killer Bee with the Kusanagi, only for nothing to happen. Bee roared, sending a chakra blast that hit Naruto point blank. Naruto skidded to the ground, sealing both blades. He looked down, his jacket torn off, his muscular torso wide open. He then gasped as Killer Bee appeared before him, lightning release, lariat. He said, slamming him into a wall. Naruto growled, grabbing Bee's neck, chakra flare. He yelled, a large beam of light surrounding Bee. Naruto disappeared in a black flash, his chest red and smoking, healing itself. Killer Bee came out of the light, jumping into the air, a tailed beast bomb in his mouth. He blasted it towards Naruto, with him frowning, that is dangerous. He thought, planting his feet at the ground, his hands aiming at the accelerating orb. A black light formed on his hands, chakra torrent. He said, a large blast of chakra leaving him and colliding with the tailed beast ball, an explosion happening. He then dashed upwards as Bee dashed downwards, Bee's arm coated in gray energy, as Naruto's arm had a black Rasengan. The two techniques clashed, both sides battling for dominance. Naruto, however, had a trick up his sleeve, forming a second Rasengan and drilling it at Bee's chest. Bee dispelled his jutsu, Naruto driving the now unstable Rasengan forward and with a pulse of chakra, had it explode in Bee's face. He disappeared in a black flash, reappearing to the ground. He saw Killer Bee falling into the ground, turned his arm into metal with holes, missiles firing off from those holes in Bee's vicinity. Explosions rocked the ground, until an enormous amount of chakra was released. Naruto smirked, his hand turning back to normal. He looked up, seeing an enormous purple Ushioni, one horn cut off, with 8 octopus tails. The bull roared, shockwaves forming and roared at Naruto, enough. He yelled, then spoke normally, I am here, Uzumaki Naruto. He said, with Naruto crossing his arms, about time, Gyuki. He said. Naruto was locked in a staring contest with Gyuki, neither side halting. Finally, Gyuki spoke, why? He asked. Naruto acted like he didn't know, why what? He said, causing Gyuki to growl, don't play dumb with me. Why do you do this? Why are you after the Bau? Are you a member of the Akatsuki? He said, Naruto raising an eyebrow, Akatsuki. He asked, causing Gyuki to sigh, all right. I will explain, he said, shifting his form lightly. The Akatsuki is an organization composed of S-rank ninja. The goal is to capture all of the Jinchuriki and extract their Bau. He explained, Naruto waiting for him to continue. They are 10, though now they appear to be 9, since Orochimaru was once a part of this organization but defected. I know this much through my Jinchuriki, he said. Naruto raised an eyebrow, even if they managed to extract the Bau, where would they keep it? No matter, I bet they will be really pissed after this. He said, perhaps I will visit them. For them to be considered capable of tanking Jinchuriki, some having full control of their tailed beasts, like Han, Roshi and Bee, they might be an amusing challenge. He said, causing Gyuki to look at him, I answered your question. You answer mine. Why are you doing this? Who are you? He asked, causing Naruto to wiggle his finger, now those are 2 questions. I am willing to answer the first one, if you can solve the riddle to the second one. I will give you a hint. I am the one who was once one but was split into 9. I am the ruler of those 9. I am the one who makes the up and down tremble in fear and awe. Who am I? He asked with a smirk. Gyuki stayed silent, until he muttered a no, which soon turned into a yell, no. He roared, going down to Naruto's level, no. You can't be. The Shinju is dead. He roared, with Naruto smirking, have you forgotten the prophecy? He asked, causing the Gyuki to growl, it was never proven true, he muttered, then winced as a large pressure fell on him, courtesy of Naruto, you know it's true. A dying god's prophecy, let alone the one made by the god of will's dying breath, is the most real prophecy that can be made. Its coming is unavoidable, its meaning is unalterable, its result is unchangeable. I am the Lord of the 9. And I give you, Gyuki, a choice regarding your life. He said seriously, causing Gyuki to stay silent. This is the choice I give you. Swear loyalty to me, give me your power willingly and your Jinchuriki won't be harmed, will live like he wants to and you will be fine as well. He continued, causing Gyuki to narrow its eyes, and if I refuse? He said, Naruto narrowing his own eyes pain. He spat out, Gyuki nodding, I see. He said, his tails approaching his mouth, I am willing to succumb, only if you prove your power. He opened his mouth, gathering chakra. Prove to me you're worthy of my chakra, Uzumaki Naruto. He yelled, forming an enormous tailed beast bomb. The orb of chakra started to compress, until it was only a tiny orb, which Gyuki swallowed. Suddenly, his body expanded, veins appearing, as smoke rose from his mouth. Naruto nodded, so be it, he said. He created 5 clones, forming a square around him, each clone's distance a meter away, with one clone inside the square with Naruto. Naruto, clones formed a Rasengan. The middle Naruto added wind chakra, forming a wind shuriken, wind release, spiraling shuriken. The rear clone to his right added water chakra, making the sphere transform into a hollow circle of rotating water, water release, spiraling chakram. Quote dot. The rear clone to his left added lightning chakra, forming a pointed tip of lightning, lightning release, spiraling kunai. Quote dot. The forward clone to his right added fire chakra, forming an arrow of fire, fire release, spiraling arrow. Quote dot. The last clone added earth chakra, forming a spear of earth with rotating pebbles, earth release, spiraling spear. Quote dot. The real Naruto formed a hand seal, uniting the jutsu. The spear flew into the air, its tip facing Gyuki. The chakram and shuriken went from the bottom to the back of the tip through their hollow middle. The kunai united with the spear tip and the arrow was placed above those, lighting them on fire. Naruto pointed at Gyuki, who had just finished charging his attack, sending out an enormous beam of chakra, 8-tailed menacing ball. He roared. Naruto smirked, forbidden technique, elemental Rasengan bolt. He said, the combined jutsu rushing at the beam. The techniques collided, battling for dominance for a few seconds, however something happened that not even Gyuki expected. The chakram and the shuriken exploded, releasing wind and water chakra that surrounded the tip, while the spear's handle was blown to bits. The explosion gave enough force, that the tip fired off like a rocket, splitting the beam in half and striking Gyuki's chest. The tip tried to push in, with Gyuki roaring in pain. Naruto then did the Tiger Seal, secret technique, elemental Rasengan cannonball. He said. The tip glowed white, until an enormous explosion of every elemental affinity occurred that encompassed Gyuki, Naruto and most of the arena. The bright light could be seen from all of Konoha, as the shockwaves destroyed everything in a 5-block radius. Once the light cleared, the only thing that remained from the arena was the left wing. Rubble was everywhere, with Gyuki on the ground, most of his skin black, his chest had blood flowing, as both of his horns were blown off, along with his tails. From a pile of rubble came Naruto, coughing. Damn, that technique's aftermath rocks and sucks at the same time, he said. He looked down, seeing his pants torn off from the knees to his feet, his boots having disappeared. His gloves and gauntlets were also gone and his belt was torn to shreds. Forbidden technique, elemental Rasengan bolt. A technique which unites 5 S-rank jutsu, 5 Rasengan from each element and unites them into one. It is a kinjutsu for 3 reasons. 1. It requires the chakra amount of the Nibi to create the 5 Rasengan and successfully combine them. 2. It requires perfect chakra control, otherwise the jutsu will blow up in your face. And 3, it has enough power to destroy a village. Luckily, I used the secret technique to make the technique unstable by eradicating 75% of its energy. However, it costed me the chakra amount of the Ichibi. Overall, I wasted 4 taels worth of power today. Luckily, I predicted this before the exams, he thought, taking out a scroll. He unsealed it, revealing what appeared to be 5 syringes of goldish black liquid. That was what he ordered Gato's council to make. A machine where you could extract your own chakra, transform it into liquid form and take it whenever you wanted through a syringe. He created it not only for himself, but for people with special chakra, like the Uzumaki, the Hatake or the Senju. Those people had powerful chakra and normal chakra pills, while restoring their chakra, weren't fully compatible to theirs, thus even with their restored chakra, they weren't capable of using the full power of their attacks, even if their bodies were unharmed. This machine gave them fully compatible chakra, along with another boost. It energized their body, sped up the blood and chakra recovery, along with giving a slow healing factor for a minute. But in the shinobi world, that was enough. Naruto plunged all 5 of them in his chest, feeling the return and boost of his chakra. He rose, waiting for the Gyuki to wake up, which didn't take long. The giant beast rose slowly, looking at him. "My power is yours," he said, falling back to the ground, as he slowly turned into chakra. Naruto outstretched his hand, the chakra flying towards him and getting absorbed inside his body. He closed his eyes, feeling the power. A moment of peace ensued. However, it was soon gone, as Naruto opened his eyes in pain and let out a scream that was heard in all of Konoha. He fell to his knees, as all of his body turned red and smoking. His hair turned all black and fused together, appearing like a black flame. Blood started coming out of his eyes and whisker marks, as his fangs grew larger along with his claws. His skin started tearing off, blood flowing like a fountain. His muscle tissue was being torn off, his bones cracking. Strange glowing tattoos appeared around his body, snapping in half. Multiple seals broke, weight seals, gravity seals and even storage seals. The Kusanagi flew out of his body along with a myriad of weapons and items. A swirl appeared in his body, with 9 circles above it. The ink started falling, mixing with blood, as all 9 circles glowed with a black hue. The ground was shaking with the force of a level 9 earthquake, as black clouds appeared in the sky, hiding the sun. Hurricanes surrounded Naruto as lightning continually struck the ground. The blood ink then started rising into the air, as an enormous heat was released from Naruto's body, literally catching on fire. The ink and blood evaporated, as the black energy grew stronger. Naruto, who looked like a zombie now, with burned flesh, no skin and visible bones, slowly levitated from the ground, the black energy uniting with the fire and surrounding his entire body in a black, flame-like aura. Rain poured down, putting out the fire, until a massive thunderbolt struck Naruto head-on, causing him to fall to the ground. The forces of nature disappeared, but the earthquake and the black clouds remained. Konoha. The battle had been won. The shinobi were roaring in happiness, having repelled the assault. However, they soon felt an enormous power rising. The walls cracked from earthquakes, as buildings started collapsing. Hurricanes ripped out houses as lightning bolts burned them down. Chunin and Junin were running around, putting out fires, saving injured and trying to protect the houses, as the Anbu were rushing to the area they felt the power coming from. The Cage were rushing at high speeds at the arena. They were in the other side of the village, fighting some summons which had escaped Jiraiya's clutches, when their bodyguards had informed them of what happened. A, who wanted to save his brother, rushed forward trying to save him. Finally, the arena was in sight. They were dodging falling debris and hurricanes, until a black beam with a red outline pierced the clouds, as the strongest shockwave ever felt was released, sending all Cage to the ground and instantly destroying everything in a 10-block radius. Arena. In the center of the ruined arena was the body of Naruto, surrounded by the black substance and unmoving. Suddenly, however, it levitated, opening his arms. Black aura surrounded it, as a tail was released, with 9 circles releasing white light appearing on his stomach. They were 8 surrounding one. One circle turned a sandy color, as a second tail appeared. The next circle turned azure, as a third tail appeared. The next circle became dark blue, as the fourth tail appeared. The fifth tail appeared, when one circle turned a dark orange. By then, cracks had started appearing all over his body, connected to the circles and releasing white light. His eyes had opened showing blood-red sclera. A sixth tail appeared, with the fifth circle turning a snow-white color. The seventh tail appeared, the sixth circle turning a bluish-white color. The cracks were widening, as the elements surrounded him. The seventh circle turned green, as an eighth tail appeared. Then came a ninth tail, with the eighth circle turning purple. Then, the middle circle turned blood red, as a 10th tail appeared. The blood red color of the middle circle spread through the cracks, as Naruto released one last roar, a giant black beam with a red outline appearing, a giant shockwave destroying the rest of the area. Naruto's mindscape. Inside Naruto's mindscape, everything was in chaos as well. The old throne room had crumbled, only debris remaining. The sky was black, as cracks and tears were appearing. He was shifting, as the earth crumbled. Suddenly, the Shinju's orb appeared, though now it was half its size. Naruto looked at it. Shinju-sama, what is going on? He said, surprised. Don't call me Shinju-sama. I am no longer that. If you want to call me something, call me Berserk. A fitting title, as I was simply a beast going berserk as the Gyuki. From now on, you're the Shinju, though there is no need to use that name. I think Maelstrom is a nice name for a god as well. It said, his tone sad, yet with a hint of pride. Naruto turned to him, what do you mean? I still haven't gotten the final part of your power located in the 9th level of hell, he said, and you don't have to. To become the new Gyuki, you needed all tailed beasts inside you, without a seal. And to become the Shinju, you needed my will. You now have both. Berserk said, as the orb turned into what appeared to be a tiny woman, her entire body glowing, making her indescribable. She kneeled, all hail Naruto, god of chaos. She said, as the tears in space grew bigger. Naruto looked around, what is happening? He asked, with Berserk looking at him, your mindscape was in reality my mindscape, the throne room of a fallen god, mixed with your potential, the still strong throne. Now, I am no longer a god, even a fallen one. All that remains is the last amount of my power, taken form and speaking to your mind from hell. This, however, will be the last time I can speak to you, before you take the power back. Anyways, now your mindscape will become your real mindscape. I don't know how it will look, but I have to inform you. As a god, your mindscape is your personal dimension. That means no demon, angel, or human can enter it, not even a normal god. Only beings with the ability to freely move between dimensions can access it, and even then they would need to pass through your defenses. You can enter it and do what you want with it, she explained, with Naruto frowning but nodding. He then remembered something, wait. You said god of chaos, I thought you were the god of space, time and will. He asked. She looked down, I am afraid, you're not that just yet. Being the god of those things, is to be the only being who can mend the unbreakable laws, you are the god of gods. You are the creator and destroyer of creators and destroyers. Only once you take my last part and conquer heaven and hell, will you carry that title. She said sadly. Naruto looked at her, a new fire in his eyes, so be it. Tell me, what happens now that I am a god? He asked. She went to say, only for a large void to appear and start sucking everything in. She struggled to stay in place, we're out of time. Listen, Naruto Dono. I have used the last of my power to seal a scroll with whatever you need to start off as a god. Anything else you need, the Bayu can help, as you must start with hell. Once your mindscape changes and you leave it, you will be a god. Goodbye Naruto Dono, she said, getting sucked in. Naruto looked at where she stood, then closed his eyes as a bright light covered everything. Slowly, the mindscape was changing. He looked down, noticing a seal. From inside, came a scroll. He sat down and started reading. Hell. In hell, everyone was in a frenzy. They all felt the new power. The 5 demon titans felt the enormous power and summoned a meeting of the kings and clan lords. In the 9th level gate, was a slowly rising army, beating their weapons roaring, long live the king. Long live the king. They were chanting, as the eye symbol of the gate started glowing, pulsing in power. Inside, in the black void, a small light appeared. Heaven. Heaven was in the same mood. The city was in a frenzy, fights erupting everywhere. The 5 high gods summoned all the heaven gods, from Zeus and his 11 gods, to Odin and his own gods. The white marble tower had changed into what appeared to be a white fort. There, a small force was chanting, all hail the tree. All hail the tree. In the courtyard, as a wall with a large tree with 10 branches, an eye at the center of its trunk, started glowing, pulsing with energy. Konoha. Once the beam disappeared, only one man stood in the place. He was tall, standing at 6 feet 4, and his body was ripped. His muscular body was the ultimate union of speed, strength and stamina. Everything was perfect, looking like it was chiseled by a professional sculptor, from the toned stomach with the 8-pack, to the wide shoulders, to the rock-hard biceps and triceps. He had crimson hair, with a black streak and gold tips. His eyes were open, revealing blood-red sclera, with 4 white rings and 9. Tomo. His pupils were slitted, similar to a wolf. His face was angular, with a bone-crushing jaw. There were 3 whisker-like marks, thick and wide, looking like a wolf's. His fangs were extremely sharp, so were his claws. He only wore ripped pants and was barefoot. Pure black energy with a red outline surrounded him, looking almost alive. Naruto Uzumaki had become a god. It was at this moment the cage arrived. All of them had different reactions. A was surprised but angry, Onoki had sweat forming on his face, Rasa had his eyes narrowed, Kenshin was smiling but his eyes held wonder, Mei was licking her lips and Hiruzen kneeled, getting looks from the other cage. Naruto narrowed his eyes, as a massive power fell on him. Kneel, he said, his voice booming. The cages instantly fell to the floor, the power bringing them to their knees, while Kenshin did so willingly. Naruto smirked, very good. Now, swear your loyalty to me, surrender your village under my command and I promise you will live, he said, getting surprised looks. Hiruzen nodded, Konoha is yours, Kami-sama, he said. All cages turned to him as he yelled, he is no god Hiruzen. Don't be delusional. Only for Hiruzen to turn to him with a hard look, he is a god. And you should talk with respect if you want to live. He said, then looked to the ground. Kenshin took out his blade, then placed it into the ground and kneeled, the Uzumaki clan survivors and waver under your command, Naruto Dono. He said. Growled, charging his chakra at full power, activating his chakra cloak, I refuse to believe this. He yelled, disappearing. He reappeared in front of Naruto, punching him in the face. However, he widened his eyes and closed them in pain as a snapping sound was heard. He roared in pain, as his arm was broken, he was cut off, as a fist tore through him. He spat out blood, as Naruto had pierced his body with a simple stab, getting wide looks from the others. Defiant to the end. Let it be known, that the Yondaime Reikage, died by lightning. He said, sending him to the air. He pointed his index and middle finger at him, Black Panther. He said, an enormous panther made of black lightning roaring and charging at A. He bit him, making an explosion of black lightning. When it cleared, the only thing that remained was the upper part of A's body, holes the size of an orange all over him, falling to the ground. Rasa and Onoki immediately bowed, our village is yours, Naruto Dono, they said, Naruto turning to Mei. She smiled seductively and bowed, my village and my life are in your hands, Naruto-sama, she said, getting a smirk from Naruto. Good, he said. At that moment, Minato, Kushina, the cage's guards, the Anbu and many shinobi entered. Once the cage and the shinobi saw their cages bowing, they all did the same, all except Minato and Kushina. He narrowed his eyes at him, good. You came at the right moment. Step forward. It is time to pay for what you did. He said, raising his arm. Minato gasped, as he was raised in the air, approaching Naruto. He tried to Hiration away, only to be unable to. Naruto looked at his horrified face, oh. You thought I would let you get away. No, I waited a month for this. He said, forming a Rasengan, black with a red outline, be glad I give you a fitting death. Death, by your own jutsu, from your son's hand, he grinned evilly, as Minato looked at him pleadingly, why? Why are you doing this? For revenge, he said, Naruto shaking his head, no. Punishment, he said, drilling the Rasengan in his hand. He spat out blood as the Rasengan tore his insides. However, Naruto wasn't done, as he let the Rasengan explode, blowing up his torso, his head flying. He raised his palm at it, sending a gravity push at it, turning it into dust from the force. Minato's lower body fell to the ground, as the shinobi looked in shock, with Kushina crying in horror. She rushed at Minato's remains, tears flowing like a river. Naruto approached her, get up. While you abandoned family, the first of the Uzumaki's teachings, your death will be fitting of an Uzumaki, if you so desire. Take your kunai and attack me, receive the death of a warrior. Stay there, he said raising his arm, and I will gladly kill you where you stand. He finished menacingly. She cried for Minato, then looked at Naruto and released her chakra chains, sending them to him. Naruto smirked. Good choice, he said, lowering his palm, as black pointed tips of chakra pierced her body, as the chains bounced off Naruto like it was nothing. She spat out blood, her body pierced in many different parts, as she felt poisoned. She looked at Naruto, smiling with blood flowing from her mouth. I'm sorry, she muttered. Naruto looked at her, then with a swing of his hand, her head fell from her shoulders. Forgiven, he said. He stood there, only to get a Rasengan in his head. Jiraiya in anger, drilled the Rasengan further, making it explode. He then gasped and roared in pain, as one of his arms got torn off, his legs getting slashed open. He fell to the ground, looking at Naruto's unharmed face. Naruto raised his arm, pitiful. He spat out. He was about to kill him, until Hiruzen spoke. Wait, Naruto Dono. Grant me this favor. Let him live, at least for a while, he pleaded, Naruto nodding. So be it. Get him out of my sight, he said. Hiruzen turned to Anbu, who nodded and grabbed Jiraiya, dragging him away. He turned to the shinobi and flared his power, his voice loud and ominous. From now on, you all work for me. Go against me and you will die, he said, the shinobi gulping and kneeling. He smirked, then turned to the cage. Come to the Hokage Tower tomorrow, we shall discuss what to do with you, he said, getting nods. He then turned to the Hokage monument. Has the monument been cleared of civilians? He asked, and Anbu stepping forward and nodding. Yes, Naruto Dono, the female voice said. Naruto raised his arm. Good, he said, bringing it down. To everyone's horror and awe, a large meteor fell from the air to the ground, destroying the monument. Naruto laughed, his power rising. At long last, this world is mine. Soon the rest will come, he roared, the ground shaking under his power. Hokage Tower. Naruto was sitting in the Hokage's chair, his legs on the desk. He had changed his attire, abandoning the ripped pants. He now wore black Anbu pants with crimson flames licking the bottom and combat boots with iron padding. For his torso, he had a skin-tight white muscle shirt with his personal symbol in the front and a whirlpool in the back. He also wore a black trench coat with crimson flames licking the bottom. On the back of the trench coat was a Rinnegan eye, with 9 tomo in 3 rows of 3 beneath it. His head had a Haitai 8, similar to Jiraiya's, only with his personal symbol instead of Konoha's. He was puffing his cigar, his eyes closed. To his right was the Hokage, while to his left was Zabuza. Zabuza had changed his uniform, wearing a full black bodysuit, with red Anbu gear. His Kubikiri Boko was behind him and he had his arms crossed. Naruto took one more puff and placed it down. He opened his eyes, the Rinyu Sharingan shining. In front of him, in a kneeling position were the 4 remaining Kage and the former Jinchuriki. He first looked to B and Yugito. B, Yugito, step forward, he said, both of them approaching and kneeling. He rose, went around and leaned on the desk. If your brother B wasn't so angry to alive, Kumogakure would still have a cage. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. However, we can fix that, he said. B, from now on, you're the god I'm Raikage. Congratulations, he said, with B looking at him, too shocked to say anything. A rapless thank you is enough, he added, with B nodding in gratitude. Naruto turned to Yugito. As for you, my little kitten, from now on, you are the daimyo of Lightning Country. Congratulations, he said, with Yugito looking at him surprised. B, but, Naruto-sama, I am young and inexperienced and that is my will. If anyone goes against you, you know how to contact me. I will end them personally, he said. Yugito nodding. Thank you, Naruto-sama, she said, Naruto nodding. He turned to Rasa and Gaara. Both of you, step forward, he said, both of them doing so. Rasa, you will keep your position as Yondaime Kazekage. I see no reason not to. He turned to Gaara. However, you Gaara, from now on, you are the daimyo of Wind Country, he said with a smile. Gaara looking at him with widened eyes. Be a better daimyo than the last. That is all I want, he said. Gaara turned to his father, who nodded at him, pride in his eyes. Gaara turned to Naruto and bowed. Thank you, Naruto-sama, he said, with Rasa also nodding. Thank you, Naruto Dono, they said. They rose and went back to their positions. He turned to Onoki and Roshi. Onoki, Roshi, step up, he said, both of them doing so. They kneeled as Naruto turned to Onoki. I also see no reason to take you off the Chuchikage position. However, I demand that you train a few people to become Chuchikage in 3 years. No offense Onoki, but you're too old, he said, Onoki frowning but nodding in understanding. Naruto turned to Roshi, Roshi, from now on, you are the Earth Daimyo. Help the Earth country to become prosperous, he said, Roshi nodding, thank you Naruto-sama, he said, Naruto nodding. He turned to Mei and Utakata, step up, both of you, he said, both of them doing so. He turned to Mei, you will keep your position. You've done a wonderful job so far and you got a lot of time to do more, he said, Mei smiling, thank you Naruto Dono. She said, Naruto nodding. Utakata, you're the new water daimyo. I know you will do it well, he said, turning to Utakata, with him bowing, thank you Naruto-sama, he said, Naruto nodding. He turned to Kenshin, step up, he said, Kenshin doing so. Naruto crossed his arms, so, from what Hiruzen said, you're my grandfather and the Shodaime Namikage, he said, Kenshin nodding. Naruto smirked, well, I see no reason not to have the legendary Hitokiri Batasai be Namikage for a few years, until a better Uzumaki rises, he said, Kenshin nodding, thank you, Naruto Dono, he said. Naruto nodded. He turned to all the cage, all of you step forward, he said. All of them did so, from what I heard, when I was immortal, all of you sent marriage proposals to me. Is that correct? He asked, the men nodding. He turned to Hiruzen, who were they again? He asked, Hiruzen coughing, the Kazekage suggested Pakura, the hero of Suna. The Chuchikage suggested his granddaughter Kuretsuki. If you remember, she was in the exams, Naruto Dono. The Reikage suggested Yugito Dono, while the Mizukage, she was already betrothed to you from your parents, he said. Naruto nodded, I accept them all, he said, getting nods from the cage, with Yugito and Mei blushing. Naruto cracked his neck, all the cages out, except for Kenshin-san, B and Hiruzen, he said, getting nods as they left. Naruto then turned to Han and Fu, both of you step forward. He said, them doing so. Now I got a special job for both of you, however, it doesn't necessarily need both of you. It definitely needs Han, but I give you Fu a choice. Do you want to take part in this project, or do you want to go to Takagakure and become Takikage? He asked, causing her to widen her eyes but nod, Naruto nodding, so be it. He said, turning to Han, Han, I want you to go to the location of Sky Country and take it by force. I don't care how, just make it happen. Once you accomplish that, start recruiting men and get it working as a fortress. You can use former members of Sky Country, as long as they are loyal. He said, getting a nod from Han, your word is my command. He said, getting a nod, all former Jinchuriki step forward. He said, rising himself as all stepped forward. His eyes glowed slightly, as his right hand was consumed by black fire and the other by white fire. He united them, forming an orb of different colored, spiraling chakra. He pointed at them, as each Jinchuriki got hit by a different orb. Naruto dispersed the technique, from now on, the abilities you possessed as a Jinchuriki, you have them as a Kekkei Genkai. Also, I doubled your chakra reserves, he said getting wide looks from the room, from this day forward, all of you are at the height of political power in your respective domains. He said, as all the Jinchuriki kneeled, thank you Naruto-sama. They yelled, getting a nod, now leave and inform the other cage that they cannot leave for 3 days. Same goes to everyone in this room, as well as the village, unless I order otherwise, he said getting nods. He turned to Kenshin, have a seat, he said, going back to the Hokage's chair. Kenshin took a seat, want a drink? You might be talking for a while, he said, Kenshin shaking his head. Nonetheless, Naruto snapped his fingers as an Anbu fell to the floor, order some tea and my Kora to be brought. He said, getting a nod. Moments later, a young woman brought the tea and Kora. As both of them took a sip, Naruto turned to him again, tell me, how you are alive. Only to get a sigh. Kenshin put the tea down and begun his tale. It all begun during the siege of Uzushiogakure. I was the successor to the Azukage seat, until that Azukage, who was my father, became too old, or died. I was at the front lines, fighting the horde of enemies. Shishio, a young man who had just become a ninja, and Saito, my best friend, were alongside me. However, we were simply too few. For every 10 ninja we killed, one of our own died while 20 of them came at us. We were forced to retreat at the Azukage Tower. All the Uzumaki unable to take arms, whether they were injured or too old or pregnant with heir. They were around 100. An Uzumaki is a warrior, we got no civilians, he explained, Naruto nodding. He continued, my father ordered me to take them, along with Saito, Shishio and 10 of our elite warriors and leave to ensure a legacy. I wanted to fight, but Hiko Uzumaki, son of Ashina Uzumaki, was a man who didn't take no for an answer. He ordered my friends to drag me to the escape boats and they did so. Family goes first and loyalty goes second, and Hiko knew how to mix those perfectly. My friends dragged me away, the 10 elites helping the Uzumaki. The remaining warriors and Hiko sacrificed their lives to bury the tower beneath the earth, along with creating a blast of chakra that killed all enemies on the island. We lost, but our sacrifice of killing over half of the combined force helped Konoha win the war. I was angry at my father, but later I understood. I learned the price of being a leader. We went to the lands of the samurai and sought refuge. They took us in, helped us, and we in turn to show our gratitude, helped upgrade their armor and weapons with seals, gave them scrolls of kenjutsu and taught them various techniques to survive in harsh environments in case they needed it. Then, we heard of you. We went to Wave and formed a deal with Tazuna. Thus, we formed a ninja village there, he finished. Naruto stayed silent for a while. He then spoke, is Uzushiogakure still salvageable? Does it have anything of value? He asked, with Kenshin nodding, it is salvageable, if you can get there. Another reason we went to Wave is because it was once a part of Uzushiogakure, divided after a terrible earthquake which brought the earth down and the land between was covered by water. And there are many things of value, he said with Naruto raising an eyebrow. Oh. Like what? He asked. Kenshin smirked, as I said, my father buried the Azukiage Tower below the earth. What I forgot to mention is that the tower is also the residence of the royal Uzumaki family, the Uzumaki branch which rules Uzushiogakure. Inside the tower are all the techniques Uzushiogakure ever made and collected from ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, to taijutsu and kenjutsu. He said, with Naruto stroking his chin, ninjutsu, taijutsu and genjutsu are irrelevant to me now. However, fuinjutsu and kenjutsu is something I look forward to. Continue, he said, Kenshin nodding, I might add, the style I use is the Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, whose scrolls are in Uzushiogakure. Also, there are tons of weapons and artifacts including Arashi, he said, piquing Naruto's interest. Wait a minute. You don't mean Arashi, the sword of the elements and storms? He asked, Kenshin nodding, indeed. We call it the sword of whirlpool, because of the ripples running along the blade. No one has used it, since whoever touched it died of chakra poisoning, he said. Naruto started chuckling, then laughed maniacally, oh, this is perfect. He exclaimed, the only thing the human world has that I actually need is located in my ancestors' home. He controlled himself, we will go there in a week. He said, as Kenshin nodded with surprise. Naruto took a sip from his kora, what are your thoughts about me killing Minato and Kushina? He asked, Kenshin looking at his tea, I don't care about that man. He means nothing to me. However, he said, looking at Naruto with few tears, while I understand my daughter, an Uzumaki, abandoned you, she is still my daughter, thus I am heartbroken because of her death. So I beg of you, please don't kill her daughters, he pleaded, Naruto looking at him, and what should I do? He asked, with Kenshin staying silent for a while, then continued, marry them. He said, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto. Kenshin looked at him, I know as a god, your blood is probably no longer that of an Uzumaki, so it wouldn't matter. He asked, with Naruto looking at him, if I marry them, will it please you? He asked, with Kenshin shaking his head, I don't think anything can please me, but it will put my head at peace and will strengthen your ties with the Uzumaki, since my people want Kushina's daughters alive, he said, with Naruto nodding, so be it, he said, rising, that will be all. He said, Kenshin nodding. He rose, bowed and exited. Naruto snapped his fingers as an Anbu fell, go to Utakata and tell him to guide the girl at the tower. He said, the Anbu nodding and disappearing. He turned to Hiruzen, call a meeting in 3 hours. He said, Hiruzen bowing and leaving. He then turned to Zabuza, go to Castle Takezo, check on your men. Then, contact Han and see if he needs anything to take Sky Country. He said, Zabuza nodding and vanishing in a swirl of water. He then snapped his fingers as 3 Anbu fell to the floor, I don't need you to guard me for now. But I do have business with you, he said, with them rising. I want you to check on the village's damage, defenses, shinobi losses and generally form a total evaluation of the village's condition after the exams. Give it to Hiruzen once you're done. You have 2 hours, he said, getting 3 salutes as the Anbu vanished. He then heard a knock on the door. Enter, he said, as a young woman entered. She had wavy blonde hair that went past her shoulders and dark green eyes. She was short, with a curvaceous body, perky D-cup breasts and a nice rear. She wore a light violet top, black shorts, a black skirt, black boots and violet wristbands. She smiled and bowed at him, with a blush. Hello Naruto-sama. She said. Naruto smiled from his chair. Welcome to Konoha Hotaru. Did you have a nice trip? He asked, with her nodding. Yes, although I am a bit sore. She said, touching her neck. He made a come here motion, with her complying. She sat on his lap, as he lowered her top, exposing her back. He started massaging her, as moans of pleasure left her mouth. Yes, right there Naruto-sama, she said enjoyably. He kept working his magic on her back, until he touched a specific part of her shoulder, causing her to moan loudly, grinding herself on him. He smirked, as the slit on his eyes became larger. Warning, line scene. If you're underage do not watch. Oh dear Hotaru. You are very sore. You will need a full body massage. He said, his hands going to her breasts grabbing them. She moaned in pleasure, as he fondled her melons, laying kisses on her shoulder. He twisted her nipples, earning a loud moan from her. He took his right hand from her breast as he went lower. He went inside her shorts and panties, slowly touching her womanhood. Then, with a sudden move, pushed 2 fingers inside her, getting a scream out of her as she arched her back. He started moving his fingers in and out, hitting all her right spots, as moans of pleasure escaped her. He went from her shoulder to her neck, nibbling on it, getting a whimper out of her. He smirked, as he started, to her rising pleasure to rub her clit. She gasped, as her rubbed it faster, pinching it. No. I am CC coming. She screamed, releasing her juices. Naruto took his hand out, pressing his fingers inside her mouth. She erotically licked her fluids off, until she fell unconscious. He sighed in pleasure, putting her top back on and let her rest on the couch. He then rose and exited the office. Line scene over. Council room. The Council of Konoha. Composed of the most prestigious members of the village, it was the council that advised the Hokage on any matter. The council room was a large rectangular room, with a table of the same shape. On the head of the table sat the Hokage. To his right side, were the seats of the clan heads, the Shinobi Council. To his left were the seats of the Hokage's advisors and the most powerful civilians, the Civilian Council. They were currently in an uproar regarding the recent events. Suddenly, the door opened and an enormous killer intent fell, that dropped everyone to their knees, ninja and civilian alike. Inside came Naruto, followed by the Hokage. He sat on the Hokage's chair, as the Hokage stood beside him. Now, if I hear more bickering, I will zip your mouth myself. Is that understood? He said in an ominous voice, getting nods. He smiled. Good, he said, his voice now normal. Give me a report. He said, as Hiruzen handled to each member of the council the report. Shikaku sighed. Our walls need repairs. We lost the stadium and every building in a 10-block radius of the stadium. Many other buildings need repairs and we need to dispose of the remains of the meteor and the Hokage monument. Also, our defenses are a bit lacking at the moment. During the invasion, we had 5,000 shinobi in the village of Chunin rank and above. Now, we got 3,000. Troublesome, he muttered. Naruto nodded. Get me a map of the village, he said, as an Anbu did so. He rose looking at it. All right. 3,000 ninjas. What ranks? He asked. Shibi looked at the report. 500 Anbu members. 700 Chunin and 1,800 Junin. He said, Naruto nodding. How many Anbu members of stationary spots did we lose? He asked, with Inoiki saying, 50. With Naruto sighing. All right. 50 of the Anbu will replace the dead ones. We shall double for now the numbers of the stationary spots, have them expand. That leaves 400 Anbu. I want half of them to patrol the village. Now, I want 200 Chunin and 500 Junin to form a surrounding line 20 kilometers outside the village. Build outposts for them. After 5 outposts, each outpost a kilometer from the next, I want you to build a tower. Each outpost will be manned by 1 Junin. The tower will be worked by 2 Chunin, with 100 towers in total. Now, 10 to 15 kilometers outside the village in all 4 directions lie abandoned forts. We will split the remaining Anbu in 50. Each of them will take a fort, repair it and have it fully prepared. In the north, Fort Aki. In the south, Fort Okome. In the east, Fort Tetsu. In the west, Fort Misao, he said, with Shikaku nodding, a solid plan. I assume the Anbu will be the backup. He asked, Naruto nodding, indeed. If trouble arises, the Anbu will provide backup, he explained, with the Shinobi Council nodding. He turned back to the village map. I want 1,000 Junin to start going on missions, getting the village money. The rest of the Chunin and Junin are to stay in the village until the defenses are complete, he ordered, getting nods. However, he was stopped by Koharu slamming her hands on the table. What is this? Who gave you the right to order us around? He said, with Naruto turning. Oh yay, you are here, he said with sarcasm, as Koharu narrowed her eyes. Naruto leaned on his chair. I took the right myself. And as of right now, the civilian council is disbanded, causing an uproar. UCA, Homura and Koharu were about to scream, however, their heads fell from their shoulders, courtesy of Naruto swinging his arm. Screams ensued as Naruto sighed. Anbu. Restrain them all. And while you're at it, send them to Ibiki. See if they had a hand in my torture. If they did, hang them, he said, as Anbu carried the protesting councilman outside. He then turned to Danzo, who was still seated. As for you, take off your bandages, he said, smirking as Danzo seemed surprised. He bit his tongue then barked out, Root. Kill him, he said, as 2 Root members charged at him. Naruto simply vanished and appeared in front of Danzo, the 2 Root members being cut in half. Danzo unsheathed a Jian from his cane, coated it in wind chakra and went to stab Naruto, only for the blade to break in his chest. He grabbed Danzo by the throat and raised him in the air. He smirked. Amaterasu, he said, his eyes glowing. Danzo screamed as black flames burned him, to the horror of everyone else. However, Naruto wasn't done, as he placed his other hand on his head and yanked his soul out. Danzo fell to the floor, as Naruto dispelled the flames of Amaterasu. However, he aimed his index finger at him, releasing a beam of white light. Once it was over, nothing remained. He sighed as he turned to the council. You may all go, he said, as they bowed and left. He turned back to his seat. Bring him in, he said. The doors opened, as Jiraiya, missing an arm and having chakra restraining seals on his body, entered with Kakashi and Guy escorting him. They placed him in front of the table. Naruto leaned his head on his arm. All right. Why did you want me to spare his life, Hiruzen? He asked. Hiruzen nodded. He is a spymaster, Naruto Dono. He may have information that will interest you, he said. He raised an eyebrow. Like? He asked. Hiruzen turned at Jiraiya. Did you know he was supposed to take care of you, along with Tsunade as your godfather? He asked, with Naruto widening his eyes, then narrowing them. What? He said, as pressure fell on Jiraiya. Explain. Don't try to lie, I will know if you will. He hissed out, Jiraiya gulping. Before your birth, Minato and Kushina made me and Tsunade your godparents and ordered us to protect you in case anything happened to you. He started. I took care of you for a few weeks, then left to join Minato. He said, with Hiruzen narrowing his eyes. You knew? He accused him, with Jiraiya nodding. I did. I helped him take care of Narumi and Naruko, taught Narumi how to use earth and fire release, Naruko Ninpo and Hiden Jutsu. He said, Naruto's anger slowly rising. What about me? Was Naruko so important to master the Kyuubi's little chakra, that you couldn't take care of me? That you couldn't raise me? You, Tsunade and my parents? He growled, with Jiraiya gulping but speaking. It wasn't just for the Kyuubi's chakra. He muttered, as the pressure disappeared and Naruto looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Explain. He said, Jiraiya nodding. He took a breath. The Elder Toad gave me a prophecy. He said I would one day have a student who would become the most powerful shinobi of his generation. That shinobi would later give birth to a child. That child was said to originally be 2, with a time difference, but later became 1 and would fuse the red and the ripples. That child would either save the ninja world, or destroy it, he explained, with Naruto narrowing his eyes. You're not lying, but who else can confirm this? He asked, with Jiraiya gulping. The Toads and Minato, he said. Naruto rose and approached him, Hiruzen following him. Hold my shoulder, Hiruzen, he said, as he did so, with Naruto grabbing Jiraiya's shoulder. Suddenly, they were gone. Mount Myoboku. The three of them appeared on Mount Myoboku, as the Great Toad Sage, Fukasaku and Shima looked at them in surprise. Fukasaku looked at Jiraiya. Jiraiya boy, what happened to you? He asked, with Jiraiya looking at him. Trouble, he said, causing them to sweet drop. Naruto turned to Gamamaru. You must be the Great Toad Sage, right? He asked, only to hear snoring. He twitched his eyebrow, as Fukasaku narrowed his eyes at him. Who are you? He asked, Naruto turning to him. You will find out soon enough. For now, wake the toad, he said, leaving no room for talking. As Shima begrudgingly did so, Naruto took out 2 vials of blood. He spilled them to the ground, summoning impure world reincarnation. He said, as the vials shifted, taking human form. To everyone's surprise, including the now awake Toad Sage, Minato and Kushina appeared. The only change, their sclera was black. Naruto nodded, his eyes glowing. Now we can begin, he said. Mount Myoboku. Minato and Kushina looked down at their bodies in surprise. One moment they were preparing to be judged, the other they found themselves on Mount Myoboku, Naruto looking at them. They turned, only to find Hiruzen, a single-armed Jiraiya, Shima and Fukasaku and the Great Toad Sage, all looking at them. Minato looked at Jiraiya in shock, as Kushina turned to Naruto, her eyes full of emotions. She outstretched her arm to him, Sochi-kun, only for him to stop her with a look. You will only speak when needed. For now, you're here to listen, he said, causing her to look sad, but nod. Naruto turned to Minato. Tell me of the prophecy, he said, Minato doing so. He turned to the Great Toad Sage. Is that the prophecy you gave? He asked, with Gamamaru nodding. Naruto crossed his arms. Then tell me, oh great Minato, what made you and my godfather so sure Naruto and Narumi were the children of prophecy? He asked, with him tilting his head. Well, Naruto and Narumi got an age difference. One has the Kyuubi, the red eyes, while the other awakened the Rinnegan, the ripple eyes. He said, as Naruto simply turned to Gamamaru, and you, Great Toad Sage, teacher of the Rikudo Sennin. He said, as Gamamaru opened his eyes more, while the rest looked surprised. What do you say? Do you agree with your clan's summoner? He asked, the sage staying silent. After what seemed an eternity, he spoke. I look at you, I see your eyes, yet I can't see your future, nor can I see the prophecy. He said, to the shock of the room. Fukasaku turned to the giant toad. But how can this be, great sage? He asked, only to hear laughter. He turned as Naruto chuckled. Oh, this is rich, he said, cracking his fingers, his eyes closed. If you can't see, let me show you. He opened his eyes, his Rinnegan Sharingan glowing, as a heavy pressure fell upon the entire summoning realm. A black aura with a red outline surrounded Naruto, forming a cloak around him, with ears that resembled a wolf's. 10 white ethereal tails appeared, as Naruto roared, sending shockwaves that made everyone shield themselves. He started levitating above the ground, as all the elements surrounded him in a ring above his head. He smirked to the growing shock. This is what the prophecy meant, he said, his voice deeper, holding incredible power. It wasn't about 2 girls with different eyes. It was about 2 beings with different souls, becoming one, he said. Minato and Kushina shielded their eyes a bit, as Jiraiya narrowed his in pain. What do you mean? He asked. Naruto pointed his finger to Minato and Kushina. What I am now is the fusion of the child you abandoned at Konoha, a child whose pure soul, like crystal water, was rocked to its core and damaged beyond repair by the people you protected, a traumatized souls like water with ripples, and the fusion of Shinju, the primordial god, who was forced to become a mindless beast, destroying thousands, a red soul stained by blood. Those 2, despite the 1,000 years of difference, became one, through the Shinju's will. What I am is the new Gyuki, the new god of chaos. And through your actions, father, mother, godfather, you have brought forth the harbinger of death and destruction. A god who commands the 5 nations with an iron fist. He turned to Jiraiya. Your dream will soon be accomplished. Peace will be brought. But wars will be fought first, and it won't be a peace of the people from the people. It will be my peace, as I will make the world mine. He roared, going back to the ground. Jiraiya looked at him in shock. No, he muttered as everyone was too shocked to say anything. Finally, to the shock of everyone, the Great Toad Sage bowed. Long live Naruto, the god of chaos, said Gamamaru, with Shima and Fukasaku also bowing. Long live Naruto, the god of chaos. They said. Naruto turned to Jiraiya, if you want to live, you will track down Tsunade and bring her to me. He said, as Jiraiya was too shocked to say anything. Naruto turned to Hiruzen, touch his shoulder and make sure he does as I said. Quote. Hiruzen touched Jiraiya, as Naruto transported them back to Konoha. He then turned to Minato, as for you. He said with narrowed eyes, his aura flaring, this revelation was the last stroke. Killing you was too merciful. He said, you aren't worthy of death. And you aren't worthy of life. He said, pointing his arm at him, as a beam touched Minato's chest. Once it cleared, a symbol appeared inside a circle, you aren't worthy of a wife. Suddenly, a white chain came out of the symbol, surrounding Minato's entire body and tying him up. Minato fell to the ground as Naruto continued, you aren't worthy of daughters. You aren't worthy of students. You aren't worthy of followers. He continued. Suddenly, the chains had mouths, as they started to slowly corrode. A black vortex appeared behind Minato, sucking him in, you will go to a dimension where one day in the real world is 1 year there. Your chains will fully disappear in a millennium in that world. Until that happens, you will experience all the pain I felt. Every day. For a millennium. Once the chains are broken, you will transform into a beast that will answer only to me. That is your punishment. He said, as he snapped his fingers into Minato and Kushina's shock, Minato got sucked in and the vortex disappeared. Naruto turned to Kushina, looking at her. He approached her as she fell to her knees, honestly, I don't know what to do with you. He said, as Kushina looked down. You abandoned me, your own son, ignored the Uzumaki teachings and turned into a fangirl, blindly trusting every word of Minato. He continued, causing her to cry. He now was right in front of her, stand up. He said in a tone that left no room for argument, as she did so. He looked at her up and down, as his eyes slits grew wider. Do you want to live? To redeem yourself? To give me the love of 12 years? He asked, as she nodded with tears. He made a hand seal, as the king of hell appeared, outer path, samsara of heavenly life. He said, as the king of hell opened his mouth, a green spirit flying from inside and going inside Kushina. Suddenly, her body glowed white, as her skin turned back to normal, her sclera white. He grabbed her by her throat and brought her close, this is what will happen to you. From this day forward, you will be mine. You will be my slave, my concubine, my mate, my wife. Your very reason to draw breath is to bring me happiness. He growled, releasing his power, as she looked at him, with shock and love, if that's what it takes, I will do it. She said, as Naruto let go of her neck and wrapped a hand around her waist, kissing her, as she returned the gesture, under the shocked looks of everyone. This kept on for a minute, until both let go, Kushina gasping for air. At that moment, he bit her neck, drawing blood and pushing his energy inside her as she moaned. A mark appeared where he bit her, a wolf with 10 tails. She collapsed to the ground unconscious, as Naruto smirked. He approached the toads, I expect you to teach Naruto and Narumi Senjutsu once they turn 14. Is that understood? He asked, as they nodded. He smirked, good. He went back to Kushina, picked her up bridal style and vanished. Konoha Hospital. It was the second day after the exams. In 2 beds in the same room, were Naruto and Narumi. They were both awake, looking at the man opposite of them. Naruto was sitting on a chair, his legs crossed, as he looked at both of them. Finally, Naruto spoke, why are you here? She said, Naruto shrugging, I wanted to see my sisters. Only to get narrowed eyes from Narumi, you don't consider us that. She said, with him nodding, you're right. I don't. He said, with her growling, then what are you here for? To gloat for your victory over us. Only to get a laugh from Naruto, oh that's rich. My dear, that would be like a samurai gloating about being able to swing a katana. It is a fact. There was no doubt I would lose to you. He said, angering her, then why are you here? Narumi yelled. Naruto sighed, to inform you that once you become 18, we shall marry. He said, getting wide-eyed looks from both of them. Finally, it was Naruto who spoke, you really expect us to marry the man who put us in the hospital? The man who murdered our parents. She hissed, Naruto shaking his head, you chose to fight me, you suffer the consequences for it. And your parents are alive. He said, with Kushina choosing that moment to get inside. Naruto and Narumi had their eyes widened. They instantly jumped out of their bed and hugged her with tearful eyes, as she returned it. Narumi turned to Naruto. Wait, what about Sama? She asked. Naruto sighed. He is alive. But he is paying for his crimes. He said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He rose. I will leave you three to each other. He said, exiting the room. Forest of Death. Deep inside the Forest of Death was a large crevice. Inside were a large series of underground tunnels. If you managed to follow them correctly, avoid getting lost to the maze of twists and turns, you would come across a large cave. Thousands of feet below the ground, this cave was as tall and wide as a mountain. Its walls were made of granite and crystal ores, with a large lake having formed inside. In the middle of that room stood Naruto. He nodded to himself, as his aura flared for a second. Suddenly, 9 puffs of smoke appeared. He looked around as all the Buu appeared, though considerably smaller to be able to fit inside the cave. He looked at each of them: Shukaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Chomei, Gyuki, Kurama. He addressed each of them, getting a nod and a bow. Juubi-sama, they all said. With Naruto shaking his head, that is merely a title. If you want to call me something, call me Naruto or Shinju. He said, getting nods. Kurama was the first to speak. What would you require of us, Naruto-sama? It said, Naruto crossing his arms, I want you to build a demon portal. He said, getting wide looks from them. Kokuo chose to speak. Naruto-sama, you must understand that to make a demon portal would take us 5 or 6 months at least, a year at most. With Naruto raising an eyebrow, explain. To make a demon portal, each Buu must first go to 100 different locations, each hundreds of miles away from each other, in a specific manner. There must never be more than 1 Buu on the same place. Gyuki started. At those places, each Buu must send their Yuki to a specific artifact that will form a gem. We must take 1 gem from every location. Shukaku continued. This step is the hardest and most time-consuming, as it would take at least 3 months. It requires perfect teamwork and cooperation from each Buu. Finished Matatabi. Isabu shifted in the water. Once each Buu gathers the gems, they must bring them to a spot with high energy outputs, a volcano, a vortex, even the eye of a storm, though the last is unreasonable. Son Goku coughed out a teal flame. Then, they must all unite their chakra to form a metal. That metal will be used as the halo where the gate will be formed. Chomei chose to spoke next. After that, 2 Buu with combined tails of at least 10, for example Matatabi and Gyuki or Isabu and Kokuo, must stay, form the gate seals and add the gems to the right place. It said, as Naruto stroked his chin, during that last step, do all Buu need to be in the cave, or only the ones that work? He asked, with Saiken answering, only the ones that work. The rest can do whatever they want. But if there is a need to switch, the Buu to take the spot must be inside the gate a day prior, to slowly contribute to the gate creation, so as to not break the procedure, it replied. Naruto nodded. Excellent. Here is what will happen. Take all the time you want and start getting those gems. Once you finish, Kurama will be the Buu to be in the last step for most of the time. Shukaku will teach me about what demonic powers he knows, then Matatabi and so on. Once the time for Kurama comes, Matatabi and Gyuki will take his place. He finished, getting nods from all the Buu. I want you to teach me anything you know. First, all your powers, then you will all together split the necessary knowledge I will need regarding the demon world in 9 parts. Once you do, you will also decide which Buu gets to teach what. I want you all to have full cooperation. And just so you know, you will accompany me to hell, he said, getting nods. Naruto nodded. Dismissed, he said, as they roared and bowed, disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto clenched his hand. A few more months, he thought. He vanished inside a vortex. Castle Takezo. Naruto entered his bedroom inside Edo Castle, only to come across a very interesting sight. Inside, kneeling in front of the door, was Kushina. She had her hair flowing, wearing what appeared to be a maid outfit, only blood red. Naruto blinked, as something inside him stirred. He growled lowly, as his muscles tensed and his power rose. He locked the door and threw the trenchcoat to the floor, as he approached her. He made a get up motion with his palm, as she obeyed. She looked at his eyes, seeing pure lust, with a small, growing sign of love. Knowing this was what she wanted from him, she smiled. That smile was enough for Naruto to lose it. Lemon warning: those of underage or those who don't want to read, please scroll to the end. In an instant, he wrapped his arm around her waist and kissed her passionately, as she returned the favor. Their tongues danced around each other, battling for dominance. Naruto placed one arm on her rear and another on her breast, as she moaned on the kiss. He went down to her neck, nibbling on it, as she whimpered, all the while fondling her breast and rear. Then, with one swift move, he opened her kimono, letting her cut breasts to full view. He dived in, sucking on her right breast, fondling the left and twisting its nipple, as she moaned in pleasure. He then switched places with the left breast, giving it the same treatment, as she whimpered, her hands rubbing his chest. He then went back to kissing her lips, as his hands went back to her rear. Suddenly, he lifted her up and threw her in the bed, as she yelped in surprise. He approached the bed, ripping his shirt off and exposing his muscular chest. He instantly attacked her breasts, slowly going down. He tore her kimono off, exposing her womanhood. He dived in, licking her insides as she screamed in pleasure, "Why yes Sochi-kun." She yelled, as Naruto swirled her tongue inside her. He explored every part of her, finding her G-spot, causing her to moan, "Yes, right there." She yelled, as he inserted 2 fingers inside her. At the same time, he licked her clit, causing her to whimper, "No. Not my clit too," she muttered as he ignored her. He kept going as she soon started trembling, "Sochi-kun, I am." She yelled, then screamed in pleasure as Naruto bit her clit, inserting a 3rd finger, coming. She roared, her juices flowing, coating Naruto's hand. He grinned, losing himself at his eyes pointing down, as she followed them, seeing his massive erection. She smiled, happy that she was the reason he was excited. She undid his pants, then lowered his boxers, only to yelp in surprise at what she saw. Naruto was huge. His dick was 13 inches long and thicker than her fist. His balls were large and looked full of semen. She slowly moved away from it, however Naruto growled and grabbed her head. She gasped in surprise, only for her gasp to be muffled, as he pushed his dick in her mouth in one swift move, "Suck," he commanded, as the seal in her neck glowed. Her eyes became hazy with lust, as she started bobbing her head up and down. He growled in pleasure, as her tongue swirled around his cock, while her hands massaged his sack. He started thrusting inside her mouth, as she deep-throated him. His head repeatedly hit the back of her neck, as his sack hit her chin. He now had both hands on the side of her head, as he slammed inside her mouth. She felt his cock twitching, knowing he was about to come. He roared, releasing inside her mouth. She widened her eyes, as she was using all her strength to gulp the ongoing wave of semen, as some trickled outside her mouth. He took his dick out, as she licked it clean. However, he was still as hard as a diamond. "Now, use your rack," he said, sitting on the bed. She fell on her knees, as she squeezed his cock around her breasts. She started rubbing him up and down, causing him to growl in pleasure, "Use your mouth as well," he said, as she sucked the part her breasts didn't cover. Soon, he came again, this time in her breasts. He brought her up to his lap, kissing her. After a while, he rose her up, his dick rubbing her vagina. "Are you ready?" he asked as she nodded, "Yes Sochi. Make love to me," she yelled, as he dropped her to his cock, causing her to scream. He placed his hands on her hips, as he started thrusting inside her. She moaned in pleasure, "Why yes Sochi-kun. Keep going. Oh god," she yelled, as he kept thrusting inside her. After a few minutes, he flipped her, as she laid with her back, him above her. He thrusted deep inside her, causing her to repeatedly yell in pleasure. He was now pistoning in and out of her, with speeds not even a ninja could produce. Kushina's mind was lost from pleasure. Soon, he grunted, "Shit," he said, as Kushina nodding, "I know. Let's come together," she said, as he couldn't stop himself. He roared as she screamed his name, both coming together. Naruto's semen flowed out of her, as they both panted. However, Naruto wasn't done. He flipped her and dropped her to her fours. With one swift move, he thrusted in her ass, causing her to scream, "Not my ass," she yelled, as he thrusted in and out, as she moaned in pain and pleasure. He growled as he slapped her rear, "Who do you serve? Naruto-sama. Who do you live for? Naruto-sama," she yelled. He kept thrusting, "You're mine. Now and forever. Say it," he yelled as she nodded, "I am yours Sochi, now and forever." She yelled as he couldn't hold any more, "Kushina Naruto." They both yelled, as Naruto came inside her, painting her insides white. Her seal glowed for a moment, then went back to normal. She panted, only to gulp as Naruto was still horny. Her moans were echoing all night. End of Lemon. Safe to read. Village Gate. 1 week had passed after the events inside the Hokage's office. Naruto was in the village gate. Behind him were Kushina, Kenshin, Shishio and Saito. In front of him was Hiruzen and Zabuza. He turned to Hiruzen, take care of the village. This won't take long, he said, Hiruzen nodding. Naruto then turned to Zabuza, take care of Naruko, Narumi and Castle Takezo. He ordered, getting a nod from Zabuza. He turned to the group behind him, touch my shoulder, he said, as they did so. In an instant, they were gone, sucked in a vortex. Uzushiogakure. Naruto and the rest were standing on the shore, as he smoked his cigar. Around them, there were ruins of what appeared to be a bridge. Is this the spot? He asked, Kenshin nodding. He nodded, closing his eyes. He opened them, his black aura rising. He pushed his arms forward, as the ground shook, the sea forming large waves. He rose them, as land started appearing. Soon, to the wide eyes of everyone, a bridge of stone was formed. The bridge had the remains of what appeared to be columns. Kenshin walked forward, this is it, he muttered. Naruto spat out his cigar and sprinted off, Kushina following instantly, come on, he said, breaking him out of his thoughts, as the three started running at Uzushiogakure. They passed the destroyed gate, looking around in wonder. Despite the place being in ruins, everything looked beautiful and Naruto couldn't understand why. Perhaps it's because this truly felt like home. They were walking to the center of the island, observing the surroundings. The ruined buildings were made of marble, colored white and royal blue. Symbols of whirlpools, waves and generally of water was everywhere. Nature was everywhere, as vines and flowers had expanded, covering parts of the ruins. They kept walking, until they reached a large circle, enough to build a fort upon it. The circle had a whirlpool carved in its inside. Kenshin approached the whirlpool's center, placing chakra on it. With a rumble, he jumped back, just in time as the circle opened and to everyone's awe, a giant tower rose from the ground. It was old, looking like it was built a millennium ago. It was made of black granite, with copper surrounding it. It had a giant whirlpool symbol on the center. As they entered, they saw everything covered in dust. Kenshin pointed to a series of stairs going below the ground. First there is the library, then the armory, he said, Naruto nodding. As they were going down the stairs, Shishio spoke to Makoto, this brings back memories. If we had a few Iwanins to kill, this would be a representation of our last time here, he said, with Saito nodding, except, this time you would kill the Iwanins more quickly, he smirked, Shishio smirking back. Kenshin turned to his daughter, who looked around in wonder. He nodded to himself, as they approached a door. Naruto opened it, only to see rows upon rows of scrolls in shelves. Kenshin turned to Shishio and Saito, start sealing the scrolls to the left. Naruto-sama, Kushina, you can go to the right section. It is the one with Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu, he said, as he went to the middle. He opened one of the scrolls, as Kushina read from his shoulder. Hiten Mitsurugi style. Created by Seijiro Uzumaki. The style of the Royal Uzumaki branch. Developed so that one person can take on numerous foes at once. Requires a combination of extreme speed, agility, perception and batojutsu, he thought. Kushina read with wide eyes, it sounds powerful, but what is batojutsu? She asked. Naruto turned to her, I assume ninjas don't use it, as it is more of a samurai technique. He said, fondling the scroll, batojutsu is a field of kenjutsu. It is the art of rapidly drawing and sheathing your sword. A sword swinged, while unsheathed, moves up to 3 times faster than swung from a normal stance. It is used to kill the opponent in one swing. He explaining, Kushina nodding in understanding. He placed the scroll back, as he now took out another scroll, adamantine sealing chains. The user molds his chakra to form extremely powerful chains, he read. He picked up another scroll, 4 red yang formation. Requires 4 cage level shinobi. Forms a barrier red in color. The barrier is strong enough to shrug off attacks from a Bayu, he whistled. He kept reading different Fuinjutsu. After a while, he and Kushina waited for Kenshin and the others to finish. Soon, Kenshin approached them, we can go, he said, as they went back to the stairs. After more descending to the ground, they entered a room. It was massive, holding rows upon rows of armor and passed them and entered another room. This one was empty, except for a pedestal. Upon that pedestal, two dragon heads held a sword between their fangs. It was a katana, held in a black sheath, with blue swirls. The pommel and the guard were made of black steel. The hilt was surrounded by royal blue cloth. He grabbed it, as he felt a small tug on his endless energy reserves. He placed his hand on the hilt, unsheathing the sword. The blade was made of a blue metal, similar to diamonds. It looked like water, with ripples running along the blade. It had an inscription, "I am Arashi, sword of storms. Tremble before my power." He looked at it up and down, smirking. His aura appeared, as he pushed his energy inside the sword. The blade glowed, before it turned normal. He sheathed it and placed it on his belt. "Now, only the holy and demonic gods can challenge me," he said, his eyes glowing. Hokage Tower. It has been 2 days since Naruto's visit of Wave and Uzushio. Now we find him inside the Hokage's office, looking into 5 scrolls and a map Hiruzen had presented to him. His eyes were roaming through the information, forming scenarios, weighing possibilities. He finally looked at Hiruzen. "Is this accurate?" he asked, Hiruzen nodding. "Indeed. Reports show that a massive stone army has been raised and is attacking various settlements and even forts. They have attacked over 20 of our outposts. Luckily they have been halted off. However, our Anbu face trouble defeating them, as they can't be hurt by normal ninja weapons. And while their exact number is unknown, we estimate them to be dozens of thousands of them," he said, Naruto growling. He slammed his hand on the table, raised the number of the men in the outposts to 3 and the towers to 5. Send 100 Junin to each fort to support the Anbu. Call back all Junin. Then, I want you to form recon teams of Junin. I want you to use 100 maximum. Have them find their patterns. Issue the order in my name through these scrolls. Then, I want you to get 500 of the best combat troops we have, regardless of rank. Take them to this spot. Pointing to a part of the map in the land of swamps, you will meet the forces of the other shinobi villages there and you will crush this army. I shall send equipment out there beforehand," he said. He summoned an Anbu. "Get me Haku, Zabuza and his unit and tell them to come fully armed and with provisions for a month," he said, the Anbu nodding and disappearing. Hiruzen looked at him. "What will you do?" he asked. Naruto put on his coat. "You said this army reminds you of the one the demon Mario commanded based on books you read?" he asked as Hiruzen nodded. Naruto turned to the map. "Then I will go to the demon country, ask the guardian princess if this is true, and if it is, I will crush this demon," he said, his eyes glowing. At this moment, Zabuza, Haku, the demon brothers and the Oni Corps entered. The Oni Corps were a team Zabuza created. Their purpose was to aid Naruto whenever he wanted in human matters. They were his bodyguards. All the members were B rank and above, wearing black bodysuits with red samurai armor. He turned to them. "We are going to demon country. You are to guard me," he said, as the Oni Corps saluted him in response. He approached them and looked at them, his eyes glowing. Suddenly, they all vanished in a vortex. Demon country. The demon country, named after the demon knight Mario, was sealed in this land. It was the home of the priestess with the ability to seal the demon, if it was ever released. The country was ruled by the priestess who lived inside a temple. The temple was fortified, containing countless soldiers. Currently, however, it was plunged in chaos. The soldiers of the demon country were running around, battling hundreds of stone warriors with glowing eyes. Their weapons, however, proved to be ineffective, as only the ones with blunt weapons managed to do damage to them. Those were the ones who held off the stone warriors, as the rest of the group were guarding a chamber inside. The soldiers outside were getting fewer and fewer. "Hold them off," a captain said, bashing his mace at a soldier's chest, only for the soldier to catch it. He looked in fear as the stone being was about to plunge its spear inside him, only to find itself cut in half. The captain looked up, seeing Zabuza, with his Kubakiriboko, having destroyed the warrior. Suddenly, smoke rose everywhere, as the Oni Corps were effectively dealing with the troops. Haku was using her bloodline to freeze soldiers, with 2 Oni Corps members destroying them. The demon brothers were using their chains and gauntlets to destroy any soldier coming their way. As they opened a path, the rest of the corps attacking the rogue ones. Soon, there wasn't a single stone soldier left. Zabuza sheathed his sword behind his back. "Well, that was that," he said. Inside the chamber of the priestess, a massacre had occurred. All the soldiers guarding her were killed brutally by 4 men, except one. He was holding a small blade, looking in fear at the four beasts in front of him. The man had short brown hair that fell down to his shoulders. His navy blue eyes were covered by red rectangular glasses. He wore a green vest with gray armor, over a white kimono jacket with a high collar. He had purple hakama pants, sandals and black eboshi. On his back was a bow with a quiver of arrows. Standing opposite of him were 3 men and 1 woman. The woman had orange hair that fell down to her shoulders, black eyes and wore blue lipstick. The man next to her had long blue hair and light-colored eyes. Another man had white hair that reached his shoulders, red eyes and his mouth was covered by a blue cloth. The man who appeared to be the leader had long pink hair and pink eyes. All of them wore a white robe with hexagram symbols. The man smirked. "Time for you and the princess to die," he said. However, he was interrupted by a gust of wind. Suddenly, the ground exploded, releasing dust that made them cover their eyes. The soldier used that moment to grab the princess and escape. When the dust settled, there stood Naruto in all his glory, his Rinyu Sharingan shining. Jitai growled at him. "Who are you? You're in the way," he said, charging at him, sending a powerful punch right at his forehead. A snapping sound was heard, as Jitai screamed in pain, to the shock of the others. Naruto smirked, sending a high kick that tore his head off his shoulders. However, the real shock was the shockwave that was formed, that snapped over 50 bones in the headless body. The dead shinobi fell to the ground with a thud, as the others looked in shock. Naruto grinned. "I am your death and I could say the same to you," he said, answering the dead man's question. Setsuna growled, sending kunai at him, while Shizuku rushed at him with her kunai connected to chains. What happened next made Kusuna gasp in awe. Naruto grabbed one kunai, while punching Shizuku's gut, his fist flying out, then her body exploded in a bright light. He vanished, appearing above Setsuna, diving in and plunging the kunai at his head, then kicked him through the wall. He turned to Kusuna, who attempted to run away, only to scream in pain as 2 chakra chains, coming from Naruto's back, tore through his legs, causing him to fall to the ground. The chakra chains brought him close, which he turned, sending his arm coated in chakra right into Naruto's neck, only to yell in pain as his hand broke. He grabbed Kusuna by the head, tearing off his soul. He smirked at the information. He turned, seeing the chakra snakes rushing at him, causing him to spit air in annoyance, as he simply released a wave of his energy, evaporating them. He looked at the moon. "This will be an amusing challenge," he said. The Oni Corps was standing behind Naruto, as he, Zabuza and Haku were sitting down. Naruto was sitting in the lotus position, his arm on his knee, holding his head. Zabuza was also in the same position, but had his arms holding his knees. Haku was sitting down normally. Taruho was sitting between them and the priestess, looking at her. "This is Lady Shion, priestess of the demon country," he announced, with Naruto looking at her. She had light blonde hair, going past her waist, held by a golden crown and pale lavender eyes. Despite her lavender kimono hiding her body shape, he recalled from last night that she had nice curves and massive breasts, maybe the size of Tsunades. Finally, an F-cup, he thought, holding in a grin. Zabuza coughed. "I am Momoki Zabuza, captain of the Oni Corps," he said, as Haku bowed. "I am Yuki Haku, lieutenant of the Oni Corps," she said, then gestured to Naruto, "and this is Lord Naruto, daimyo of the elemental nations and god of chaos," he said, as Shion widened her eyes slightly, with Taruho gasping, "Gee God." He asked, Naruto smirking, showing his fangs at him, as he composed himself and bowed to him. He then looked forward again. "We would like to request the Oni Corps to escort Lady Shion to the Ceiling Shrine. As a result of last night's assault, many lives perished and as in Lady Shion's precognition, Suzuki was among them," he said, with her nodding, something that made Naruto quite annoyed. "That's right," she said, as his eye twitched, with Haku and Zabuza, along with the entire Oni Corps unconsciously moving backwards a bit. "And here I am safe and sound. They must have no regrets," she finished, as Naruto remembered the numerous dead soldiers. He then remembered how he helped the Fuma clan, the Uzumaki clan, the Wave, how he brought Konoha to its feet and how he brought happiness to the Jinchuriki by giving them a position that could benefit both themselves and the world. He growled, as an ominous pressure fell upon the room. Shion widened her eyes in surprise, as Naruto had grabbed her throat and raised her to the air, hitting her with his power. "No regrets. No regrets, you say? What about leaving their loved ones?" What about leaving their family? That's not something to regret according to your words. He growled, his voice full of power. She gasped for air. I'm their priestess. Thanks to my gift of foresight, I can survive and keep the demon at bay. She said, as it only made Naruto more pissed. Is that so? Would you like a prediction too, priestess? I predict that tomorrow night, you will be kneeling before me. He said, dropping her down. He turned to Haku. Haku, take the Oni core and inform the combined shinobi force to come here. They will what power truly means, he said, his voice now normal as Haku nodded and immediately left with the Oni core. He then turned to Zabuza. Zabuza, you will guard Shien, along with Taruho on our trip to Mario's seal. He said as Taruho looked at him, so you will guard Lady Shien. He said, as he nodded. He turned to her, we shall leave tomorrow afternoon. He said, as Taruho interrupted, but that will make us lose time. He said, as Naruto smirked, exiting while saying, no it won't, he said. The afternoon of the next day, Naruto, Taruho and Zabuza were waiting for Shien to finish preparing for the trip. Taruho turned to Naruto. Naruto Dono, please forgive Lady Shien's attitude. She acts like this because of her past, he said, as Naruto turned to look at him. He looked down. You see, after she became a priestess and started having predictions of the future, people feared they would be in one of those predictions, so they avoided her. For that reason, she was isolated, he explained. Naruto shook his head. You're wrong. That doesn't justify it, he said as Taruho looked at him. Naruto cracked his neck. Until I reached the age of 7, I was shunned by everyone in my village, had assassination attempts on me, got beaten, stabbed, poisoned, tortured and many things your mind could never process. I later became an Anbu, seeing other horrors, partaking in some of them. This kept going, until I became a god at the age of 13. He said, narrowing his eyes at him, yet, I take care of my subordinates. In return of their loyalty, they got my love and are under my protection. A bad past doesn't give her the right to act like that. He finished, as he looked at him with wide eyes, then turned to looking at the ground. Afterwards, Shien finally appeared, with Naruto raising an eyebrow at her. She wore a white top that looked like a bra, a mustard yellow shirt that appeared many sizes too big for her and red pants cuffing off at the knees. She also had red sandals. She huffed. Let's go, she said, only to yelp as Naruto grabbed her, placed an arm on Zabuza's shoulder, as Zabuza touched Taruho's back. They disappeared in a vortex. Land of Swamps. The group appeared before a large mountain located in the Land of Swamps. The sun was slowly falling, as night started to arrive. Naruto, unknown to them, purposely decreased the speed of the teleportation, to give time to the shinobi army to destroy the stone army. Also, this speed decrease was unknown to the group, since they still traveled pretty fast. Shien turned to them. I will enter alone, she said, entering the shrine. The group waited just a few seconds, until they saw the stone army approaching. Naruto turned to Zabuza and closed his fist. Zabuza nodded and grabbed Taruho, rushing off, despite Taruho's protests. Naruto then turned and entered the shrine. The shrine was in reality just the core of a volcano, with a large red circular rock at the center, with a bridge leading to it. Shien walked the bridge, sweat slowly forming on her face, not eyeing the large pool of magma below her. She went to the middle of the circular rock, taking a deep breath. However, before she could start the seal, she heard a voice. My, how you've grown. Quote. She looked forward, seeing a man sitting in a stone chair. He had long black hair and eyes resembling the color of tanned skin. He was wearing a black trench coat over a gray attire, with martial arts shoes. He smiled evilly at her. You look like your mother, he said, 3 stone soldiers appearing. Let us offer our greetings to the princess. He raised his arm at her, as the stone soldiers started to approach her. As she slowly stepped away, Yomo started speaking. I am Yomo. Long ago, your mother stopped my plans. Do you remember that day? It was the day we chose Mario as our leader and the 1,000-year kingdom was within our grasp. He said, as Shien was at the edge now. If it wasn't for your mother, there wouldn't be a priestess. He said. Shien was about to be attacked, screaming, stay away. Quote. Suddenly, laser beams came from her bell, destroying the stone warriors. Yomo looked amused. Why are you so shocked? Are you unaware of your power? He looked at her shocked eyes. What a surprise. What do you know? He asked, as she steeled herself, every day, for this day, I honed your sealing jutsu. He asked laughing, then come and seal me. If you can. He said. She went behind him, to the seal pentagon. He turned to her, the seal unites the two people into one. Your mother, Miraku, accepted that, he said, as she turned shocked, yes, your mother is inside me. He exclaimed, to her surprise. He chuckled, yes, we were once one. But we got separated into two souls, two bodies. We were one, but we came to be Mario and the priestess. He continued, good, evil, right, wrong, light, dark. Those words cannot tie us. He finished. Shion took a deep breath and made 3 hand seals unlike the ones shinobi use. The seal lit up, as a barrier was formed and she started levitating. She did the next 9 seals, as the seal coffin holding Mario's body rose. She then did the last 6 seals, releasing the seals. However, at that moment, Yomo came in, falling to the ground. An evil voice spoke, you were too hasty, priestess. You should have waited for that one's body to decay. It spoke. She was on the ground trembling, he did it to get in here. She thought, as a purple aura rushed out of the dead body and into the coffin, hovering above it. She tried to leave, only to get damaged. The voice laughed evilly, once the barrier is up, no one can leave, until one swallows the other. And that is decided by their chakra. He exclaimed, the aura rising, now you will return my body. You have my gratitude, as that one was too weak to break the seal. He said, the aura entering the coffin and the seal disappearing. She fell to her knees, crying, what have I done? She said. She closed her eyes, all those years, were for nothing. Naruto protecting me, was for nothing, she thought. She was about to be enveloped in darkness, as Mario's body rose, only for Naruto to catch her and get her out of the shrine. Shion opened her eyes. She looked around, seeing hundreds of shinobi, from all 5 nations. Leading them was a man wearing red samurai armor, with a red straw hat and a mask. She turned, finding herself lowered from Naruto's back. He nodded as the man bowed. Naruto-sama. He spoke as Naruto nodded, good work Han. He said, turning. Suddenly, everyone looked at the mountain erupting like a volcano. He threw Shion in Han's arms, take her and the shinobi 100 meters away. He said, Han doing so, as she screamed his name. He chuckled, can't get enough of me huh? He said to himself, raising his hand in the air. A transparent energy beam rose to the sky, before erupting and forming a transparent dome. He nodded to himself, seeing the lava receding and a large dragon with 4 heads appearing, its skin purple, with a flame-like lavender aura. He smirked at it as Mario looked down, you are really stupid to challenge me, mortal, he said, as Naruto snorted, then you must be pretty pathetic, lying to Shion like that, he said, Mario narrowing his eyes. Naruto nodded, oh yes, I heard everything and I know it's a lie. He said, levitating in the air, his Rinyu Sharingan glowing with power, the Tomo spinning. The truth is, you were a knight in the territory of the demon titan Diablo. You were commanding the armies of the demon king Abeliz, Diablo's own son. Yet, you tried to take over his kingdom and challenged him to battle for his power and his wife. You lost horribly and was banished. Then, coming to the human world, you tried to start an empire here. You came to this land's priestess and demanded her armies to help your cause. Instead, you got sealed, he said with a smirk. Mario roared, how did you learn that? He said. Naruto smirked, I got my ways. And by the way, he said, as he released a massive amount of power, his black flame-like aura surrounding him in the form of a cloak, with 10 white ethereal tails, I am no mortal. I am Naruto, god of chaos. Remember this, for it will be the last thing you ever see. He said. Mario roared, sending towards him a beam of purple chakra. Naruto vanished, reappearing above the head which fired the beam and kicked it, all the way to the ground, forcing the head to explode in a shower of chakra, while the ground crumbled under the force of his leg. Mario roared, as 2 of his heads started firing streams of purple fire at him. Naruto dodged it, running up the back of one of Mario's heads, jumping and punching it, his fist tearing through. Then, with a bright light, the head exploded. The other head that fired at him turned attempting to bite him. Naruto, however, grabbed its jaws. Amaterasu, he said, as black fire burned it from the inside. He jumped back as the head was getting incinerated. He released the flames, as the destroyed head simply fell off. Naruto jumped away, levitating in the air as the three headless necks seemed to get absorbed by the remaining head. Enough. Die. Mirio yelled, as bright balls of energy surrounded him, blasting off towards Naruto. He redirected him away with slaps, as he punched the air, sending a shockwave that pushed Mirio back. He growled, as blast of darkness left his body, the entire dome being concealed in darkness. However, Naruto's eyes could see clearly. He pushed his hand together, forming a glowing black orb. He held the orb, rushing to Mirio, who was charging a large flaming beam. He dodged it and threw the orb inside. Suddenly, Mirio's body flew upwards. What is happening? He roared as Naruto said, planetary devastation. Suddenly, huge chunks of stone flew from the ground, trapping Mirio. He roared, no, I won't be. He was cut off, as he was fully enveloped in a giant orb of stone. Then, to the awe-filled eyes of the world, Naruto appeared hundreds of feet above the orb. He raised his arm into a fist. Black lightning surrounded his arm, energy sphere. He muttered, sending a black orb at the giant stone orb. A bright flash appeared in the sky, turning the night into day. When it disappeared, the orb was gone. Naruto roared in the sky, as the shinobi cheered. Shien looked at Naruto amazed. Shinobi camp. The shinobi were in the camp, celebrating the defeat of the stone army. The camp was basically a large circular area, protected by a wooden wall, with tents everywhere, except the middle, which was empty. In the middle, a large table was commanders of the army. Naruto and Shien were sitting there. Naruto was at the head of the table, Shien next to him. Large fires were everywhere, with meat burning. Everyone was drinking sake or wine, enjoying themselves to the fullest. Naruto was drinking sake from the bottle, when he felt a tug on his sleeve. He turned, seeing Shien looking at him. He placed the sake down, as she blushed. I want to thank you for defeating Mirio and the Stone Army, she said, with a small smile. Naruto shrugged. It was an amusing challenge. And a smile suits you better than tears, he said, as her smile widened. She then frowned. Now that the demon is dead, there is no need for a priestess, she said, only for Naruto to shrug. There is need of a queen, he said, as she turned to him. I don't have royal blood, she said. Naruto shrugging. You don't need royal blood. You need to marry a king, he said, as she blushed. She then smiled seductively. Are you perhaps a king, Naruto-sama? She said, as Naruto smirked. I would consider myself more of a god king, if that answers your questions, Lady Shien, he said, as she nodded, placing an arm on his chest. How about we discuss more about this marriage? She asked, smiling suggestively. Naruto's response was to grab her waist, both of them disappearing. Temple. Naruto and Shien appeared in the throne room. He approached the throne, sitting on it. This is a comfortable seat, he said, as she approached him. A seat for a king, she said, kneeling. He smirked. It seems my prediction was true, he said, as she nodded. So it seems. He urged her forward, bringing her to his lap. You know, this throne also needs a queen. Are you up for the challenge? He asked. Her response was leaning in and kissing him. He kissed back, as he picked her up bridal style and went to her room. Warning. Lemon, those of underage or who don't want to read, scroll to the end. Naruto pushed her down to the bed, kissing her passionately, as she returned the action. He twirled his tongue inside her mouth, forcing a moan out of her. His hands went on her breasts, as he laid kisses on her neck, causing her to moan loudly. Oh God, she said, as he touched all her sensitive spots. He stopped kissing her neck, as he took off her jacket and shirt, letting her melons jiggle. He smirked, latching on one nipple as he twirled the other. Shien moaned. Yes. Play with them, she said, as he did so. He switched places, hungrily sucking them. He then started kissing her stomach, as he removed her pants and underwear. He looked at her shaven pussy, smirking and hungrily eating it out, as she widened her eyes, grabbing his head, pushing him deeper. Yes. More. Eat me out, she yelled, as he explored her insides. He kept licking every part of her, until he hit her G-spot. Her eyes rolled to the back of her head. I'm coming, she yelled as her juices were swallowed by Naruto. He smirked, raising himself up, ripping out his clothes. She licked her lips, seeing his large dick standing in attention. She touched it. This looks painful. Should I calm down your swollen muscle, my king? She said, as he nodded. Please do so, my queen. My muscle is in need of a massage, he said, as she placed it between her melons. He closed his eyes in content. God. If I get to fuck a hot demoness and a hot angel, then both of them together, all my dreams will be complete, he thought, groaning as she started sucking it along with stroking it using her breasts. This went on for 10 minutes, until she let go, deep-throating. The sudden tightness of her throat made Naruto open his eyes wide and come right there with a satisfied groan. She licked all the cum off, as he rose and kissed her. She yelped as Naruto laid her down, her back on the bed, as he thrusted quickly inside her, as she screamed in pleasure, "Yes, keep going. Don't stop." She breathed out, as he nodded, "As you wish," he said, increasing the pace, pistoning in and out of her with so much force that any more would rip her in half. He was repeatedly hitting her G-spot, causing her moans to multiply. She widened her eyes, "Yes. Coming," she screamed, surrounding his cock with her juices. He didn't stop though, he kept going. She widened her eyes, "Slow down. I am sensitive from my orgasm," she said, as he shook his head, "Can't stop now. I am close," he said, increasing his speed more. He growled, "Coming," as he released inside her, her eyes rolling to the back of her head. He kissed her deeply, as she returned it. He rolled, looking at the ceiling, as she panted. They kept cuddling for a while, until they fell end. Sometime in the middle of the night, Shion had a vision that made her widen her eyes and rise panting. Naruto rose too, holding her back, "A vision?" he asked as she nodded, panting. She turned to him, "You must return to Konoha tomorrow morning," she said, as he raised an eyebrow. "Why?" he asked, as she shook her head. "I can't reveal much, as I don't understand myself. All I know is that the village and your Jinchuriki, who came to give some reports, are in danger by red clouds and the elements," she said, as he frowned. "Akatsuki," he said. He turned to her, smiling, "Don't worry. I won't leave you until the morning," he said, as she smiled, falling back asleep. Naruto smirked. "Time for the hunters to be hunted," he said. Hokage's office. Naruto was sitting in the Hokage's office, looking at the group in front of him, a cigar in his mouth. All the cages and the daimyos were in the room, having arrived after the incident with the Stone Army. After waking up, he had taken a bath with Shion, that led to some hot moments, thus another bath afterwards, with Naruto soon leaving. It wasn't that Shion's prediction worried him, on the contrary, it excited him. He found it amusing for the Akatsuki to fight him. Though he wondered what she meant by the elements. He shrugged, thinking it was Kakazu. He was taken from his thoughts as each person finished their report. He nodded, "All right." Now, he was suddenly interrupted as a Junin rushed inside Naruto Dono. Senses picked up 10 cage-level chakra signatures, north of the village, near the Valley of the End. He said, as Naruto smirked, "Perfect." He rose, taking out the cigar and throwing it outside the window. He started to leave. "This will be fun," he said, as the former Jinchuriki followed him, along with the cage, wanting to see what would be one hell of a fight. Valley of the End. The Valley of the End. The legendary spot where Hashirama Senju, the Shodaime Hokage, defeated Madara Uchiha, head of the Uchiha clan. It was a scar on the earth, the result of their battle, with a waterfall. This waterfall served as the border between the Fire Country and Sound Country. On each side, a huge statue was erected. On the side of the Fire Country, was the statue of Hashirama, and on the other side, the statue of Madara. Both were doing the confrontation hand seal. All in all, it was a beautiful place, whose history could be felt in the air. Sitting on top of Hashirama's head, were 14 people wearing long, black cloaks with red clouds decorating them and having a slash running through their height. They were the Akatsuki, the famous mercenary group composed of S-rank ninja. Their purpose, capture all the Buu and conquer the world. However, their plans were foiled, thanks to one man. Uzumaki Naruto. He had captured all the Buu, gained incredible power and begun to play God. Pain, the leader of Akatsuki, would have none of that. So he commanded all members to come for the first time in one spot outside their hideouts, for the purpose of defeating Naruto and gathering the Buu. They didn't wait long, as Naruto with the Jinchuriki and the cage behind him appeared on top of Hashirama's statue. He had his arms crossed, a smirk on his face, as he analyzed every member of the Akatsuki. He grinned slightly upon noticing Pain's Rinnegan, thinking this might be even more amusing than he thought. He looked to the group behind him. "Don't interfere," he said, getting nods. Naruto turned back to the Akatsuki. He yelled, "So, who is going first in this little event we have created? Unless you want to come to me combined," he taunted, jumping down on the water. Pain turned to Sasori and Deidara and nodded. The two jumped down. Sasori, from what Naruto saw, was actually a puppet. He sensed that the real Sasori was inside the puppet, feeling the life force from inside. He turned to Deidara. Deidara was a man with slanted blue eyes and long blonde hair, held in a half ponytail, with one bang hiding his left eye. He raised his arms at him. Who wishes to die first? His response was for Deidara to send clay bats his way, with him doing a hand seal saying Katsu. An explosion occurred, with Deidara laughing, ha ha ha. Looks like he wasn't so tough after all. His response came in the form of a scream, as Naruto reappeared, jump kicking him in the left eye, breaking his scope and sending him crashing to a wall. He ducked under Sasori's scorpion-like tail, then grabbed it. He tilted his head, dodging poisoned Senbon, then with a simple tag, ripped the tail of Sasori's mechanical body. He looked at the tail, before squishing it, destroying its effectiveness. He was about to attack him, until his back exploded. He turned as Deidara's palm mouths were molding clay. He rushed just as Deidara formed a large clay dragon. The clay dragon spat out some clay orbs. Naruto ignored the explosions, as his clothes were getting singed. He jumped above the dragon, then pointed his index and middle finger at him, as a panther made of black lightning destroyed it. Deidara cursed, he can use black lightning. He yelled, Sasori taking this moment to fire poisoned Senbon from his gauntlet. They bounced off Naruto, as he appeared in front of Sasori and sent an axe kick. The kick instantly destroyed the puppet, as Naruto felt two arms wrapped behind him. He turned, only to feel the burn of a large explosion. Deidara smirked, as his clone exploded, only to gasp as he felt his arm cut off. He turned at Naruto, whose cloak was burning and tearing, cursing him. Naruto smirked, as Deidara now had one arm. He saw Deidara feeding clay to his own mouth, forming a doll of himself. The doll exploded, releasing a cloud. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the cloud. He outstretched his palm, energy beam, he said, as a large black beam flew out of his palm, striking the smoke, forming an enormous explosion. Deidara looked shocked, how? Only to yell angrily as he felt his other arm cut off, along with getting a kick that sent him crashing into a tree. Naruto smirked, then turned to Hiroko's body, who had now revealed a man. The person had mousy red hair and grayish-brown eyes. His eyes were half-lidded and his face held an aloof expression. He tore off his cloak, revealing his mechanical body, as his eyes now were fully open. I must thank you. It's been a long time since I used myself. He said, as Deidara cursed, you fool. You became a puppet. He said, as Sasori nodded, of course. I am now art, for I am eternal. He said, as Deidara growled. Art isn't eternal. It is something instantaneous, like an explosion. Art is a blast. He said, as they argued under Naruto's amused eyes. Suddenly, Deidara turned to him, You seem to know about art. What do you think art is? He asked as Naruto smirked. He raised his hand, as small black jolts of electricity appeared. In my opinion, art should be a blast, that will be remembered for all eternity. He said, as he released two spear tips from his hand, energy spear. He said. One spurt up struck Deidara in the stomach, sending him flying. The other struck Sasori, only darkening his body from the blast. Sasori raised his arms, sending streams of flames at him. Naruto jumped over them, axe kicking one of Sasori's legs, breaking it in half, the part below the knee being cut off. Sasori's stomach opened, as a metal cord attacked Naruto like a stinger. He caught it, tearing it off Sasori's body, then attacked him with it. Two pipes came from Sasori's hips, revealing 5 blades each that spinned like a buzz saw. The spinning blades cut the cord, as Naruto threw the remains. Sasori charged at him, trying to cut him in pieces, only for the blades to break in contact with Naruto. Naruto kicked Sasori away, as Sasori suddenly unsealed 100 puppets from a summoning scroll, each puppet connected by a chakra thread from his chest. All puppets wore red cloaks, as Sasori said, give up. You can't defeat my 100 puppets, only for Naruto to smirk. He charged the puppets, as they each took out weapons. What followed was a puppet massacre. Naruto only needed to use his deadly, assassin's fist, style, which combined with his unbelievable strength and speed, sent the puppets into oblivion. He punched a puppet, his fist tearing through it, then spin-kicked 5 puppets at once, breaking them in half. All weapons bounced or snapped off of him, as he continued his upcoming barrage. Suddenly, when he appeared in the middle of the group, he released an instantaneous blast of black chakra from his body, destroying all the puppets. Sasori said, "Impos," only to be unable to talk as with 2 quick high kicks, Naruto destroyed his living core, then sent his head flying. He raised a palm, as he fired a compressed fireball that incinerated Sasori's remains. He turned, as he felt a massive amount of chakra building up. He saw Deidara's skin slowly vanishing, as his explosive chakra coursed through his entire chakra network. Knowing what he was about to do, he cut off both of his legs, grabbed him from the throat, then actually threw him into orbit. Deidara's last words were, "Art is a blast." Before an enormous explosion lit up the sky. He sighed, then formed a barrier, because he knew more techniques like these would show up. He turned to the other Akatsuki, "Who's next?" Hashirama statue. The cages were standing, looking at the fight in awe, as the Jinchuriki was sitting cross-legged, watching the fight intently. They were happy, as the ones who were meant to kill them, were being killed easily by the god. Onoki was sad about Deidara's death, but he thought little of it, as the boy paid the price for being an S-rank criminal. Hiruzen looked at Akatsuki, "Who will be next?" He thought. Madara statue. Pain narrowed his eyes, as the boy destroyed Sasori and Deidara without breaking a sweat. He turned to Itachi, "Give your report," he said as Itachi's Sharingan was spinning. His body is invulnerable to all weapon attacks, even explosions of Deidara's power. He uses a form of energy that is, yet at the same time isn't chakra. He wastes no opportunity, even when toying with his opponents. I also can't find flaws in his taijutsu style, nor I can copy it, or any of his moves. His eyes also worry me, Pain, he said as Pain nodded. He turned to Kakazu and Hidden, "You're up," he said, as they fell down. Valley. Naruto looked at the new enemies. Kakazu was tall, with a white hood covering his hair and green eyes with red sclera. Hidden was a man with slicked back gray hair and purple eyes. He was holding a large triple-bladed red scythe. Hidden smirked, "Time to be sacrificed for Jashin-sama," he said, as Naruto narrowed his eyes. Jashin is a demon lord under Mephisto. If he is a follower of Jashin, he must be immortal, unable to die by physical attacks. Well, most physical attacks, he thought, as Hidden rushed at him with his scythe. He swinged it at him, only for him to dodge. Hidden changed the course, even releasing the scythe, holding it from a thick metal rope, trying viciously to hit Naruto, even though Itachi said only a minute ago he couldn't be damaged. Naruto knew Hidden wasn't worth fighting, so he finished him quickly. He grabbed his scythe, snapped it in half, then pierced his body and kicked him to the air. He raised his palm, as a cone of white energy appeared. A conical beam sped towards Hidden, as Hidden screamed, "Fuuuuckyoou." Before an explosion happened. When it was gone, nothing was there. Kakazu raised an eyebrow, "I am impressed. If I knew Dust Release could kill him, I would have killed the third Chuchikage just to get rid of him," he said, as Naruto smirked, "You have my condolences for being his teammate. Now, shall we continue?" he asked, as Kakazu nodded. Kakazu appeared in front of Naruto, sending a fist his way. Naruto caught it and tried to kick his head, only for Kakazu to duck and attempting to knee his gut. He didn't even feel it, as he headbutted Kakazu with enough force to send him skidding away. Kakazu said, "Earth Release, Earth Spear," as his skin gained a darker hue. He charged Naruto again, punching his face, only to widen his eyes slightly, as Naruto didn't feel a thing, while his hand cracked. Naruto kicked him away, the earth skin shattering. "Your arm didn't break because of the stone protecting it," he said, as Kakazu growled. To Naruto's interest, Kakazu tore off his cloak, revealing his stitched body. Then, black threads surrounded him, appearing similar to an octopus. 4 masks came off from behind his back, as they mixed with the threads, forming 4 beasts. From the colors, Naruto presumed one could use fire, lightning, water and wind. Naruto charged, appearing above the water mask and breaking it in half, getting a scream of pain out of Kakazu. The lightning mask sent a beam of lightning out of its mouth, only for Naruto to absorb it from his index and middle finger, then sent it back the same way, as it pierced the mask and killed the beast, as Kakazu lost another heart. He charged Naruto, the threads released from his body, intercepting Naruto. Naruto fought him in hand-to-hand combat, the threads posing no threat to him, as when they grabbed him, all he did was turn his body and they snapped in half. Suddenly, Kakuzu jumped back, as the wind and fire mask combined attacks, forming a massive firestorm, with Naruto inside it. However, water rose from the river, putting it out. Naruto came out, as he took off the remains of his cloak, with his white shirt now sporting burns. He opened both palms forward, as thousands of blue triangular orbs fired off, piercing the masks and Kakuzu. After it was over, Kakuzu fell to the ground, though still breathing. Naruto appeared above him, his palm outstretched. Good fight. Energy flare, he said, as beam of black light surrounded Kakuzu, finishing him off. He looked up, 4 down, 10 to go, he said. Madara statue. Pain growled, thinking Kakuzu and Hidden could discover a weakness. Itachi turned to kiss him. We shall fight him now, causing Kissum to smirk. Finally. I can't wait to hit him with my sword, he said, as they jumped down. Konan looked at Pain's eyes, seeing the growing rage, but paid it no mind, as she knew he would win. Hashirama statue. Mei whistled. He is in a role, she said, as Gaara nodded. He could defeat S-rank ninjas when he was a 10-year-old mortal. Now, they pose no threat to him, he said, as the rest nodded. Hiruzen thought, let's see if Itachi forces you to reveal higher rank techniques, Naruto. Valley. Naruto looked at his new opponents. He smirked. Kissum Hoshigaki and Itachi Uchiha. You will prove entertaining, he said. Itachi was a man with jet black hair. His eyes had the Sharingan on them, fully matured. Kissum was more of a shark than a man, with blue-gray skin, white iris with small black pupils, gill-like markings below his eyes and blue hair resembling a shark fin. He was the tallest member of the Akatsuki and on his hand was Samehada, the most terrifying of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist's Blades. Kissum rushed at him. I have to warn Samehada doesn't slice. As sharp scales appeared from the bandages, it shaves, he said, as he brought it down. However, he was shocked when Naruto caught it bare-handed, even more when Samehada tasted its chakra and started crying as it hurt it. Kissum growled, you hurt my sword. He yelled as Naruto shook his head, no. Then with a chop of his hand, he broke Kissum's arm, forcing him to let go of the blade, then Naruto grabbed it and sealed it away. I stole it. Quote. He looked at Kissum. I am impressed. I wanted to cut your arm in half, not break it. Perhaps more strength is in order here, he said, as Kissum growled, throwing his fist at him. He caught it, kicking Kissum's gut, as he gasped in pain, then punched him right in the face, breaking a few of his sharp teeth. Kissum flew back. Naruto went to rush after him, only to be forced to dodge fire-consumed shuriken, courtesy of Itachi. He looked Itachi right in the eyes, as he shrugged off the genjutsu he attempted to use on him. Itachi narrowed his eyes, then with a few quick hand seals, he spat out a large fireball, which Naruto simply slapped away, throwing it to the waterfall and putting it off. He saw Kissum rising, his eyes full of rage, as an enormous amount of chakra rose off him. Interesting. Your chakra reserves could match mine when I was 10. Most impressive, he said, as Kissum sent 5 water sharks at him, Naruto simply punching them to death. Kissum growled more, as he went through hand seals. I will kill you, with one attack. He roared as Itachi told him to calm down. However, Kissum didn't listen, as the pain of his strikes and of taking Samehada from him blinded him. He went through hand seals as an enormous water shark was formed. Kissum smirked. Throw your best attack at it. I can assure you it will defeat it, he said, as Naruto smirked. He fell into the horse stance, placing his arms next to his right hip, like cupping a ball. A black fire-like aura surrounded a black orb that formed in his hands. Kissum smirked, sending his arms forward as the shark rushed at Naruto. Naruto grinned. Shinku Hadoken, he said, as a massive black fireball-like ball of energy rushed at the shark. Kissum grinned. Fool. It absorbs, he was about to say, then looked shocked as the fireball destroyed the shark and rushed at him. Chakra. He finished as he was engulfed by the attack. Once the attack was over, Kissum laid on the water, injured. Blood was rushing out of different parts of his body and his mouth, while his cloak was torn. He coughed as Naruto appeared before him. He looked in his eyes in defiance, as Naruto formed a Reikiri made of black lightning. He stabbed Kissum in the heart, killing him instantly. He took out his arm, as he looked at Itachi. Itachi felt sadness for the death of his teammate, then narrowed his eyes at Naruto. He rushed at him, sending shuriken, while coating his arms with chakra. The kunai bounced off as Naruto and Itachi engaged in a taijutsu match. Despite Itachi's speed and reflexes, Naruto dodged every blow. He gasped in pain as Naruto twisted one of Itachi's punches, breaking his arm. Itachi, using a one-handed seal, released a stream of fire at Naruto point blank. Naruto came out unharmed, as he tore off his shirt, his torso now bare. He cracked his fingers and neck, then charged at Itachi, piercing him, only to get a point-blank explosion, courtesy of a clone. He shrugged it off, as he looked at Itachi's eyes shifting to the Mangekyo Sharingan. It had 3 spiraling curves around the pupil. Amaterasu, said Itachi, as black flames surrounded Naruto. To his shock, however, Naruto dodged it, as he appeared in front of him, Rising Dragon. He said, as he uppercutted Itachi's chin, blood flowing out. Itachi fell to the ground, then opened his eyes using Tsukiyomi, however, Naruto's superior eyes broke it like it was nothing. He opened his palm, a black orb appearing, energy eruption. He said, creating a massive explosion. Itachi, however, did something Naruto didn't expect. He survived, with a large ethereal humanoid wearing armor and holding a shield and a flaming sword surrounding him. If I hadn't used this, I would have died. Feel the power of the Susanoo, he said, as he swung his sword at him. Naruto dodged it with narrowed eyes, the Totsuka blade. A blade which can seal whatever it touches. While I am confident in my strength, I don't want to risk being sealed inside it, only to find out I can't break the seal. He thought, avoiding swings as he looked at the shield, the Yata mirror, it can stop any elemental attack. Well then, I will have to use that for the first time. He thought. He ducked under a swing, as he appeared in front of the mirror. Then, to Itachi's shock, he unsheathed Arashi and struck the mirror, forcing it to break in 100 pieces. Itachi gasped, impossible, he said, as Naruto sheathed his blade. Itachi swung his sword, only to be shocked at what happened next. A black skeletal arm blocked it, as a ribcage appeared. Soon a large humanoid skeleton complete with skin and armor. It towered over Itachi's by 12 feet. It had 6 arms. 2 held a long tachi and a round shield, 2 held twin kodaki and 2 held a bow and arrow. Naruto smirked, as the tomo in his eyes started spinning. Time to feel my Susanoo, he said. Naruto's Susanoo started attacking Itachi with the blades, as Itachi was forced on the defensive. On the rare chances he found an opening, his sword was blocked by Naruto's shield. At one point, when Naruto swung both of his kodaki, 2 blades of chakra rushed out and hit him, causing Susanoo to tremble. At that moment, Naruto threw an arrow, that destroyed his armor and one of his hands, the sword of Totsuka disappearing. Now he was in simple skeletal form, but it was soon destroyed as well by Naruto's assault. Naruto dispersed his own Susanoo as Itachi started coughing blood. He approached him, dodging a few weak throws of kunai, as he kicked his chin, forcing him to the ground. He placed his leg above his chest, adding pressure on it. Naruto smiled sadly, that was a good warm-up, he told him, before he raised his arm in the air. A black flame appeared, being shaped into a sword. He plunged it inside Itachi, as he gasped, blood flowing out of his mouth. Then, he closed his eyes, as he started falling in the river, the sword still inside. He sighed, as he finished him. He looked up, feeling pain's rage. Hashirama statue. Everyone was shocked at the latest had his eyes widened. Such power, he thought, then stopped as he heard a squeal from Mei. She grinned, yes Naruto-sama. You turned that shark into sushi, she said, causing Onoki to chuckle. However, the Jinchuriki rose, as all felt the massive spike of chakra. Madara statue. Pain looked at Naruto with clear rage in his Rinnegan eyes. This boy foiled all his plans and killed all of his subordinates. He turned, seeing Zetsu dropping his cloak. I ain't fighting him. I'd rather defect, the twin voices said, disappearing. Pain roared, his chakra flaring. He jumped down, 5 others following him. Valley. Naruto smirked, as he saw Pain's fury in his eyes. He then looked at the 5 others, seeing the orange hair and Rinnegan eyes. He whistled, interesting. You are using the 6 paths technique. You pass all paths except the outer path inside 6 reanimated bodies. 1 path for each body. If I assume correct, the one you use as a leader must be the Deva path, he said, Pain nodding. With this, I will show you the meaning of pain, he said, only to hear chuckling. He looked as Naruto's eyes glowed brighter, his power rising. If I waited for you to show me pain, I would have died at the hands of the villagers all those years ago. No, what you will show me, is the life leaving your eyes, he said. And with that, they charged each other. Valley of the End. Naruto smirked, show me. Show me your life. Make me see it leaving your body. But before that, try and have the excitement of a battle rush through me. He said. Pain narrowed his eyes, I will have you feel pain. He said. Deva raised his arm, as the Asura path rushed forward, propelled by rocket boosters on his feet. He aimed a punch at Naruto, only for his arm to bend in contact. Naruto pierced his chest with his fist, then an idea came to him. He smirked, as he dodged the serrated blade sash of the path, headbutting him with enough force to form cracks on the mechanical body. He threw the path in the air and transformed his hand into an arm cannon, sending a dozen rockets at the path. An explosion occurred, as the path was incinerated by the rockets. Naruto turned his arm to a metallic one with holes, as he looked at Deva with a smirk, how about this? I will only use taijutsu and the Rinnegan, just to show you the difference of our skill levels with the dojutsu. He said, as Pain growled. The animal path sent a large dog-like beast with black receivers and Rinnegan eyes. Naruto smirked, oh, the dog, huh? Well, I will summon just to show our skill difference. He said as he slammed his hand on the ground, forming a large puff of smoke. From the smoke came a giant lion, its eyes the Rinnegan. The lion rushed at the dog and easily overpowered it, biting him, but despite the dog's ability to multiply, it simply couldn't pierce the lion. The lion pushed the dogs back, scratching them and biting them, until he came face to face with the animal path. He roared his head as it tried to dodge, however, Naruto caught her and sent her right between its maws. The lion started biting her, then swallowed her. As the dogs dispelled, it roared, fire coming out of its mouth. Naruto dispelled it, getting pleasure from Pain's anger. The Deva sent the human path to fight Naruto. They entered a taijutsu match. Even though the paths had shared visions, Naruto's speed and strength were simply too much for them to counter. Soon, Naruto broke all four limbs of the human path and sent it to the air, before throwing a Hadouken strong enough to turn it into dust. He grinned as the Deva grit its teeth. Remote location. In a tree inside the forest, only a few dozen meters away from the valley, stood Nagato. He was in a mechanical walker, a machine he used to stand, along with controlling the paths of pain. He had red hair, with one bang covering his right eye. He was frail, his bones visible, as he wore no shirt. He only wore a pair of pants. Sticking out of his back were multiple black rods. Next to him sat Conan, having left the statue to guard Nagato. The real looked at him as he growled, damn him. He has mastered the Rinnegan, so he knows what I will do. And his superior speed and power make my shared vision ineffective. She looked at him, will you use that? She asked, as he frowned, only if the Deva is in danger, he said. Valley of the End. Naruto dusted off his pants, only Deva, Preta and Naraka. So what will you do? Deva is the only path that can attack. He said. His response was the Preta path releasing 5 fireballs at him, oh. Back to the basics, huh? So you use the Rinnegan's ability to control all 5 elements, which is something all paths can possess. Good. He said, absorbing the technique, do you know something the Preta path can also do? He said, as a barrier appeared in front of the Preta. To his surprise, it can send the ninjutsu back. He said, as the 5 fireballs hit the Preta path at point-blank range. Naraka path went to revive him quickly, but Naruto axe kicked him to the head, destroying it. He smirked as he felt the force of an almighty push. As to Deva's surprise, it had no effect. Naruto did the same, almighty push, sending him flying. However, he reappeared, and to Nagato's growing shock, he did the same, then did it again and again and again. He had repeated the teleport almighty push combo 10 times before he stopped. The Deva path struggled to raise himself up, then used universal pull on Naruto, again having no effect. Naruto raised his arm, universal pull. He said, as Naruto was floating before him. He frowned, now, how to kill you, he thought, as Yahiko widened his eyes. Naruto smirked, oh well. I will just blast you with a Hadouken, he said, as he used almighty push to send him to the air. Naruto sent a Hadouken at him, farewell. He chirped. However, he frowned as glowing seals appeared all around Deva's body, before a huge explosion enveloped him, managing to destroy even his Hadoken. He then saw the Deva path fall to the ground, as 5 beings also fell. He observed them with widened eyes. Their bodies pretty much looked the same. They appeared to be like an Oni, with horns, sharp fangs and long claws. However, they had differences. The one in the middle had purple skin, with purplish black hair. He had a purple robe, covering his legs, his chest bare. The one to his right had green skin, with green hair looking like snakes. He wore a green robe similar to the first one's. The one to his left had light blue skin and dark blue wavy hair. His robe was an azure color. To the right corner, stood one with red skin and orange hair similar to flames. He wore a gold robe. To the left corner, stood one with brown skin and hair the color of sand. He wore a silver robe. They each had the symbol of an element to their chest. Naruto narrowed his eyes at him, his muscles tightening. I didn't expect the elementals to arrive. Welcome Chujin, Kaijin, Suiji, Fujin and Reijin, he said, his tone changing slightly. Statue. The group was silent. Just a minute ago they were cheering for Naruto annihilating pain. Now, they were silent. Gaara turned to the other cage. Are those who I think they are? He asked, as Kenshin nodded, the elementals. The gods of the 5 main elements. He spoke, as Hiruzen looked with wide eyes. I think this battle is about to turn into a real one. He said, as the Jinchuriki were about to go down to Naruto, however Onoki appeared in front of them. Han cracked his fists, cage or not, if you don't step aside, I will kill you to get to Naruto-sama, he said, as Onoki looked at each of them. Is this all the faith you have in your leader? He asked, as some of them looked down. He smirked, turning back to Naruto. I think today we will see the true meaning of Naruto Dono's power, he said, as everyone looked at them. Valley. Naruto looked at the gods in front of him. Smirking, he did a mock bow. How wonderful for the great elementals to pay a visit to a god such as myself. You come to declare your loyalty to me? He asked, as Kaijin and Chujin were about to attack, but were stopped by Suijin and Fujin. Reijin shook his head. No, Shinju, we are here to kill you. You see, your rise has angered the holy deities, as they expected your death to be permanent. Now, with you conquering the human world, they demand your head. He said as Naruto chuckled, which soon turned to hysterical laughter. Fujin growled. What is so funny? He asked, as Naruto wiped a tear from his eyes. All of you. Have the holy deities really gone senile, after the years of my absence? Sending the meager 5 of you against me, he said, as Sujin smiled. You only have your energy back, along with your body. You don't have full control of your powers, or full knowledge of them. And don't forget, we know a considerable amount of your energy is locked in hell. Which, by the way, you will never reach, for you will die here, he said, as Naruto smirked. He took out the Reijin and tossed it to Reijin, as the god caught it, with the other gods taking out their respective blades. Naruto took out the Arashi, the gods narrowing their eyes. They released their power, each god surrounded in an aura of their element, as Naruto activated his cloak, only this time one of the tails was black. Naruto made a come here motion, as Kaijin and Chujin rushed at him. Kaijin's sword was a blade of pure white fire, similar to the sword of Totsuka. Chujin wielded an enormous Zanbato of stone. They both swung their blades at him, as Naruto blocked them. A kenjutsu match ensued, sparks flying from the clashes of the blades. Soon, all the gods had joined the fray, trying to overpower Naruto with their powers. However, Naruto was simply too fast, too strong, had the Arashi, which placed them at a huge disadvantage, and he used a style perfect for taking many opponents at once. Naruto ducked under a water blade, before clashing with a wind one. He jumped over a lightning and water one, parrying an earth one. He was swinging his blade left and right, as the tomos in his eyes were spinning, forming predictions, outcomes and giving him information. Finally, he found a weak spot. He dodged a swing from the huge Zanbato, spinning in the air, then with a dash, he penetrated Chujin's guard and plunged his sword deep inside his chest. Chujin roared, as cracks appeared all over his body, brown light coming out. He twisted the blade, before removing it and slicing his neck, then jumped as an enormous explosion rocketed the area. He fell back, as the other gods roared in anger for the death of their brother. They each sent a different attack at him. Kaijin threw a stream of white fire which was combined by a large gust of wind from Fujin. Suijin unleashed a water torrent from his mouth, with Raijin coursing lightning through it. Naruto dodged them by flying high into the air, as the spot he stood on exploded in a shower of energy. The gods followed him, flying as well. Raijin and Fujin were coming faster, with Raijin releasing lightning beams from his fingers as Fujin shot out blades of wind by swinging his sword. Naruto kept dodging him, until he saw Raijin disappearing, as an enormous fireball, the size of his Chibaku Tensei rushed at him. Naruto pointed his palm at it, sending out a beam of light that pierced it, causing an explosion that damaged Fujin, while the beam itself kept going and hit Kaijin at point-blank range, damaging him badly. Suijin growled, as he released water balls at Naruto. He went to block, only for both of his arms to be held by Raijin. He took the full power of the balls, as he growled a bit. He raised his leg high, kicking him in the nose. He roared in pain as it broke, letting him go to hold it. Big mistake, as Naruto turned and stabbed him in the gut. Raijin roared, grabbing Naruto's shoulders, lightning coursing through. Naruto twisted the blade, before slicing him in half. He headbutted him, pushing himself away, but it was too late, as he still got hit by the explosion of electricity that was released. Naruto kept falling at high speeds. He turned, seeing Fujin going towards him, as his hand was coated in wind, with Naruto narrowing his eyes at the amount of energy. Fujin roared, "This is the end. Hurricane Fist," he said, punching Naruto's chest. The moment he came in contact, dozens of massive hurricanes surrounded him. When it was over, Fujin smirked, only to gasp as a sword went through his throat. Naruto growled, beheading him, as he was pushed back slightly by a large blast of wind. He cracked his neck, the last two blasts hurt, he said, though his body had no injuries. Suijin roared, as he raised his hands to the ground. He raised them, as a massive fountain of water was rising to their spot, enough to fill a lake the size of a mountain. Naruto narrowed his eyes, "I had enough toying with you," he said, as he held Arashi. He rushed at Suijin, his sword ready. "Kujoyusen," he said, disappearing and reappearing behind Suijin. Suijin gasped, as 9 holes appeared on his body. A large blast of water was released, Naruto disappearing and appearing a few feet opposite of Kaijin, as the water fountain fell back down. Naruto smirked, "Just you and me," he said, as Kaijin raised his arms into the air. Suddenly, a huge orb of gold flames appeared, before it started to compress. Soon, it was the size of a basketball. He roared, "Solar beam." Before an enormous beam of fire rushed out towards Naruto. The sky was painted gold, as a massive explosion of flames, the size of a miniature sun appeared. Kaijin panted, thinking it was over. However, he gasped as Naruto came out of the smoke unharmed but naked. His eyebrow was twitching. "Oh great. Never thought I would kill a god naked," he said, as he sheathed the Arashi and fell into a Batojutsu stance. He rushed at him at high speeds, as Kaijin raised his sword attempting to block. Naruto took out his blade, as a tearing was heard. Kaijin was hovering in the air, lava flowing from the cut on his torso, his sword snapped in half. Naruto was behind him, his blade having a small flame at the tip. "Amakakeru ru no Hirameki," he said, sheathing it and disappearing in a black flash, as a massive explosion of flames occurred. He reappeared below the ground, quickly putting on some spare clothes. Just as he had placed on his shirt, he saw the cages and the daimyos coming down towards him. He was about to greet them, until Mei jumped on him and sent him towards the ground. "That was awesome," she yelled, then nuzzled his cheek with a seductive smile. "Hey Naruto-kun, can I have that samehada pretty please?" she asked, with Naruto smirking and giving her a scroll. She squealed, hugging him, until Utakata grabbed her and pulled her away with a sigh. Naruto stood up, as Hiruzen smiled. "You are just full of surprises, defeating 5 gods with little to no effort," he said as Naruto shrugged. "What was that last attack?" Gaara asked. It was Kenshin who answered, "Amakakeru ru no Hirameki. The ultimate Batojutsu and the ultimate hit and Mitsurugi technique," he said, as Onoki nodded. "I remember you using it in a sparring match with the samurai leader, only you were using a Sakabato. Even then, it did enormous damage, forming a large mark on his chest," he said, as Kenshin nodded, remembering the battle. However, Naruto groaned, "I don't want to hear about old tales. What I want is to return to Konoha." "Come on," he said, as he rushed back to Konoha. Remote location. Nagato growled, I can't believe it. Not only my paths, but even those spirits lost to him. He cursed, as Conan tried to calm him. However, they suddenly felt a large force hitting them. They turned, as Naruto looked at them. Conan was going to attack him, but Nagato stopped her with his arm. He turned to Naruto, why are you here? He asked, with Naruto looking at him, you know why. I am here to put a stop to your plans, he said, as Nagato nodded, so be it. I entrust my dream of peace to you, he said, as Conan cried. Naruto nodded, as he sent a kunai at his heart, killing him instantly. He turned to Conan, what will you do? He asked her as she looked at him, normally, I would kill you. But as Nagato entrusted his dream to you, I will support you through a megakure, she said, as Naruto tossed her a kunai, throw it to me, he said, as she clenched her teeth, throwing it. The kunai hit his head and to her surprise, he exploded in smoke. Hokage Tower. Naruto's eye was twitching, as his power was felt by everyone. When he said return to Konoha, he meant coming back and enjoying peace and quiet, maybe spend some time with his brides. Not this. Standing in front of him was Jiraiya, 2 women and a pig. The woman holding the pig had black shoulder-length hair and black eyes. She wore a black kimono with white trimmings, held by a white sash and open-toed sandals. The woman had brown eyes and blonde hair tied in 2 ponytails. A purple gem marking was on the center of her forehead. She wore a gray kimono-style blouse, held by a dark gray obi and dark gray pants. She also wore open-toed sandals, but hers were high-heeled and with straps. She was looking at Naruto with worry in her eyes. Naruto rose from his seat looking at her, his eyes narrowed, so let me get this straight. You, my godmother, my blood relative for being Uzumaki Mito's granddaughter, left me in this shitty, god-forsaken village, to starve, to be beaten, to almost die, because you didn't want any family for fearing they would die. I stress the almost die part, he said, anger visible. All Tsunade could do was nod, then duck as Naruto had kicked the Hokage table in his anger, sending it flying and crashing on the wall. He raised his arms as Anbu charged in, I'm good. I'm good, he said, taking breaths, as the Anbu exited the room. He composed himself, looking at her. Well, from now on I demand that you become the head of the hospital, with Shizune as your assistant. You are to make sure the medics are capable and everything works smoothly. If you refuse, I will give the position to Shizune and have you rot in a prison cell. He said, as she nodded quickly, I will do it. She said, as he nodded, excellent. He said, as he tossed her a scroll, get to work, he said, as she and Shizune vanished in fear. He turned to Jiraiya, I have another assignment for you. He said as Jiraiya nodded, once I go to Makai, the 9 Jinchuriki will rule in my place, until I return. I will give them a long set of orders that need to be carried out. Your first assignment, which won't be finished until I leave, will be to support Han in conquering the land of the sky. He said, as Jiraiya nodded, anything else? He asked, with Naruto shaking his head. Jiraiya left in a shunshin. Naruto sighed, as he had dealt with too much. Suddenly, an idea came to his mind. He summoned Haku, as she bowed, yes Naruto-sama. She asked. Naruto rose, send messages to all the Kage daimyo to get here by nightfall. We are having a celebration. Tell them I don't care if they can't just leave. If they don't come, I will have their heads, he said, as she gulped and nodded. She ran off, then smiled hearing a, you and Zabuza are invited. From Naruto. Ichiraku Ramen. The Ichiraku Ramen stand was the only restaurant that treated Naruto like a human being. So as a thank you, Naruto helped him economically. In little time, combined with Naruto's recent fame due to his ascension to a god, the stand became the best restaurant in Konoha. It had 5 floors, the top being reserved for Naruto and village leaders. Currently, that's where Naruto was at, along with the Kage, the daimyo and all of Naruto's good friends. They all wore formal clothing. Naruto was wearing a royal blue kimono, with red swirls and a black wolf on the back. He also had black hakama pants and black boots with gold plating. Tied around a red sash was Arashi. To his right was Kushina, wearing a high-collared, pure white kimono, with blue swirls. Her hair was kept low. To his left was a blushing Orihime, wearing a black dress with white circles, while her hair was decorated by a black hairpin in the shape of a star. Zabuza was wearing a black bodysuit with gold armor, Haku wearing the same, except the bodysuit was gray. There was also Yamato, Naruto's old commander, wearing a green kimono with brown tree markings. Finally, opposite of Naruto stood Gyuki and Ayami, the owners of Ichiraku. They both wore a plain white kimono, as Naruto had dragged them from the kitchens to drink with him. Everyone was chatting and laughing. Zabuza and Gyuki were talking about training experiences, the cages about the funny side of politics, Killer Bee and Yugito were arguing over rapping, Utakata and Roshi were discussing about the peaceful life of traveling, Han and Gaara were arguing over which tailed beast was more menacing looking in terms of appearance, Gyuki was talking with Kenshin, Ayami was laughing with Haku, while Orihime and Kushina were talking. Suddenly, Naruto rose, as everybody looked at him in silence. He smiled, "I would like to thank everyone for attending today. I wasn't serious when I said I would have your heads. A simple stab would have sufficed," he said, getting chuckles. He coughed seriously. "Thank you all for coming," he said, as he raised his cup, as the others did so, a toast. "To a united elemental nations," he said, as they cheered. They ate, drank and chatted, enjoying the first days of peace. After a few hours, they all went to their hotel rooms. Takezo Castle. Naruto was sitting on the roof of his castle, looking at the moon. He was thinking of his life, of all he did, of all he accomplished. He also thought of all that was about to occur. He rose, "A few months. That is all I have to endure, a few months of intense training. Then, the war for the crown will finally commence," he thought. A massive black wolf with 10 tails and eyes with the Rinyu Sharingan appeared above him in ethereal form. Heaven. Up on the White City, inside the throne room of a palace, a woman was sitting. Not much could be seen, as the cloth obscured all of her features. Suddenly, an angel entered the room, kneeling before her. "My queen, the Shinju was attacked by the elemental gods. He destroyed them," he said, as a melodic laughter came from the woman. "Is that so?" "Well, he seems to be reaching his predecessor's power rather nicely," she said. 2 red eyes appeared from the curtain. "I can't wait to meet you, Shinju Naruto," she said. Castle Takezo. 1 year had passed. The first year where the elemental nations were finally at peace. Their ruler, Naruto, god of chaos, had rejuvenated the hierarchy with young, just leaders, that ensured peace was kept. True, they were skirmishers at first, people who wanted to destroy that peace. However, Naruto quickly took down those skirmishers. He was worshipped by the people for his god status, and politically, he rose to the title of Elemental Emperor. While originally only the 5 great nations, Wave Country, Whirlpool Country, Waterfall Country and Demon Country were under his direct command, soon he took over Swamp, Sound, Grass, Stone, Rain, Frost, Hot Water, Spring and Iron Country, as even the samurai bowed before his power. He also had huge political influence over dozens of countries, like Tea, Fang and Claw Country. The shinobi now had a special height I-8 symbolizing them as soldiers of the Emperor. To the middle part, it had the symbol of the Emperor, a Rinyu Sharingan. To the right part, it had the symbol of the shinobi's village, and on the left part it displayed their rank, a triangle for Genin, a square for Chunin and a circle for Junin. The shinobi army was now more organized, stronger and better equipped. Trade was widespread and the economy was blooming. All in all, peace had finally arrived. Using his special powers, Naruto had sealed the entire castle Takezo and moved it a few dozen kilometers south of Konohagakure. It now looked more like a military palace, rather than a simple castle, with even larger walls, equipped with kunai launchers, shuriken launchers, senbon launchers, oil machines and cannons. To the right of the castle, on top of a small hill, a group of people had gathered over what appeared to be a gate. It was made of a red metal and it was circular. Many jewels of different colors were etched in the metal, surrounding seals. The gate had a purple barrier-like wall between it. The group of people were the cage of the nations, the daimyo, the Oni Corps, 10 anbu of each village and clan heads. Standing a few feet in front of the group was Naruto. He had changed his attire, having prepared for a tough trip. He was wearing black combat boots with black metal plating and black pants that made a balloon effect. On the bottom of the pants were crimson flames. On his torso he had a prototype black chakra armor with red lining, a gift from the land of spring. He had modified it to be extra durable, along with being capable of absorbing aura and Yuki to a point. He had black gauntlets, whose fingers were sharpened. He had the same forehead protector, just made with black metal. 9 orbs flowed around him, the Bayu. He turned as in front were his wives or to-be wives. He approached and kissed each of them, with Narumi and Naruko blushing at the contact. He then turned to Zabuza, shaking his hand. They had grown to good friends, as Zabuza was now an S-rank ninja and one of his generals. The Oni Corps captain position passed to Haku, who was also an S-rank ninja now, and their purpose was to protect the Emperor's family, his family. He then said his goodbyes to each daimyo and Kage until he came to Hiruzen. He smiled and nodded his head at him, as Hiruzen did the same with a smile. He turned, slowly going up towards the gate, as the entire gathered group saluted him. He took a deep breath, as he heard Kurama's voice, scared. He joked, as Naruto shook his head. Hell no, he said, as a grin appeared on his face, his slitted Rinja Sharingan glowing from his excitement, just excited. He said, jumping inside. Soon, the battle for the crown would begin. Soon, the world would be shaken from the arrival of Naruto, the Alpha Bayu. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.